best clip?
Zoom in on his face again like last time.
It was good. I should have zoomed in on his face. It was good. I threw that together in like 5 minutes.
Crisp, bro.
It was perfect. Yeah, because you threw the headset. I was like, all right, let's do getting. It had to be done. All right, let's get through this intro. All right. Welcome, everybody. Today, it's Saturday. It's March 26th. I'm Frosty, and this is MogTalk. If this is your first time joining us, MogTalk is a show where we discuss a variety of topics involving Final Fantasy XIV in hopes to keep you a more informed player and help make you a better player. Whether you're a Sproutling, or you're farming Savage, or if you're just now getting into PvP, as this show is going to be about. This week, we are going to have our first PvP episode since the Feast was released. And, you know, this is our first PvP episode since last time you were on the show, Joe.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I figured I'd give everyone a little bit of time to sink in and kind of figure out the Feast a little bit. And with the season starting within, like, just a week, what better time to start talking about it than now? So, before we get into it too much, I want to make sure that we introduce our guest here. We're bringing two extremely active PvP players from the community onto the show. First, we have yet to do, again, a single PvP episode without this man, the one and only Swagoon himself, Joe Never. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, Frosty? How you doing, bro? I'm doing great.
Awesome, man. How far have you gotten into ranking with PvP so far?
The farthest I've gotten is I've been low 770s bronze, and then I've entered the cancer zone.
Oh, why do you call it the cancer zone?
Because it's difficult right now. It's difficult right now to, I guess, if you're the only skilled player on your team, it's difficult to carry a 4v4 solo match as one person. There's only so much you can do. So, like, for example, I love being able to talk about promoting PvP and promoting PvP awareness in all different communities and getting people involved and showing people about how cool this version of the game is. But when you're in a match and you have no clue what to do and people are going for ranking, it can really be a serious detriment to have new players on your team. So we're going to get into that as the stream goes on today.
Yeah. And for the first time joining us ever, we have a member of the PvPReborn.com team, Steve, right? You're on that team. I'm not lying about this, right?
Yeah, it's more known as Rum Raisin Fan Club, but PvP Reborn.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Is made by one of our teammates, which is Nikosa.
I gotcha. Okay, so how have you been, man? How are you doing?
I've been good. Just because I live in the UK and I'm on an American server, ranking up's kind of hard for me because of how time zone works. But I've generally been ignoring solo because of me playing Black Mage and White Mage mainly, and it's good for your health not to go in solo.
You hear that, Joe?
I've not even hit bronze yet. Actually, I think I've just hit bronze.
Yeah, we have this conversation all the time, so it'll create a great dynamic.
I don't know if I could do too much solo. Solo, I don't know if I could care when I went into it. I'd be just like, whatever, I'll just click on buttons and deal with it, because I don't want to plan and think about 3 random people and try to make it work with them, because I feel like everyone's trying to farm the puppy. I mean,
yeah, which is, I think that's fine if it was unranked. The only problem is it's you either do the 4v4 and people get mad at you if you just want to get used to the game if you're new because it's ranked, or you do the 8v8, which is nothing like 4v4, which is a bit of a, it's not the most ideal thing especially for people starting out.
Yeah. 8v8 is what I've really stuck to, and that's because I don't have to care. I know I don't have to care going into that. It's just going to be messed up no matter what going in there, unless if you go in with a full team, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think 8v8 is a great introduction for people to get into like the intensity of what PvP is and show them the difference in pacing between PvE and PvP. But it's not like a place to hone your skills. It's not a place to like really
build
practice
strategies.
Fine-tuning. To get a good understanding of the general layout of a game, but not like what 4v4 is really like. You know, if you it's tough to say like, hey, there's front lines and there's the fold to go get used to, but it's really even those are two different animals from what the Feast is right now.
You have to get used to mechanics as well, and you know if you're starting out, it's fine to be completely destroyed basically as you're learning, but it's just that doing 8v8 is nothing like 4v4, and your lack of knowledge and skill if you're new is so apparent in 4v4 that it basically ends up in your team losing, and then some bad manners between people, to say the least. It's quite sick sometimes.
All right. Well, let's get into it, guys. So a lot has changed in PvP, the PvP world, that is. This entire expansion has been, I think, a positive upturn in PvP, because even though, the battleground type mentality they brought in with Seal Rock still wasn't what we were looking for, it was something better than what we had, right? And so this whole expansion, PvP's been on the uprise, and this last patch has really made a big turn with people actually wanting to go in and be serious about PvP and think about PvP. And so I'm really excited to have this show today. It looks like there's a chance that there might be some sort of, level of seriousness coming into PvP in Final Fantasy XIV. A lot of people, when they talk about it when they're streaming, they're like, well, if you really like PvP, I don't know, this game might not be for you. A lot of people will say that. And that's because a lot of people have that kind of reaction to it. I know, Joe, you're completely against that.
Yeah.
You're completely against that statement, but it's out there. People say that all the time.
100%. It is one of the sentiments when, like, it's tough because from playing this game from day one and seeing like how it's been implemented, and knowing that we've only been playing this game for 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, to have the first reaction of a lot of well-known people in the internet community and the streaming community say, like, PvP in this game sucks, and, like, not really get involved with it or not really, like, try it out. For me, like, having never played PvP before in an MMO, having never played an MMO before, having a really positive reaction to it, I think that a lot of people would have a similar reaction to the reaction I had, having never been involved in it before. So, when people still say stuff like that, I don't get offended. I'd like to have more of, like, an understanding with someone or talk to somebody one-on-one. This is all stuff that I've been talking about for 2 years straight up, about PvP awareness and talking about how cool PvP is in this game. And, for somebody like me to see how Seal Rock was implemented, to see that the Feast is being implemented in the way that it is, and the length of time for a feedback loop in the Feast right now, which is really, really short, it's really exciting for somebody who's loving PvP. And to also know, like, we're really young, you know what I mean? Like, they've obviously, you guys know this, they obviously haven't been focusing on PvP in this game as opposed to the PvE side. But to know that we're getting some attention from a development standpoint, and that they're focusing more on it, to know that there is a PvP community out there on JP and NA and EU, to know that there are people that are really caring about it and supportive of the community, I think that we'll see more of that as time progresses, and the dev team is really supportive of getting that type of feedback, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. It's just fucking great.
And I mean, the Feast is going to be, like, the main topic of the show today. I mean, we're going to talk about some other aspects of PvP, but talking about the Feast is something I definitely want to talk about, because it seems like it's living up to the hype. One thing I got to say I like a lot about the Feast at the moment is when you die, you're not out of the game. You're like, oh, well, I messed up. Let me go back in there and see what I can do to improve myself. So you're constantly going in there, and you're constantly getting this relationship where you're trying to improve the fight. And it's not, hey, I messed up once, now I have to wait dead on the floor until it's over and then try again. You get to constantly hone your skills, I think.
It's the game type. I was originally quite against it because I generally only play the game for Wolves Den. Up until that point, I'd done like 2,000 matches. And so when I heard about that, it sounded very gimmicky, how with the boxes and stuff. But then they explained it, like, the boxes aren't random, they spawn at set times, things like that. So I'm warming up to it, and it's a lot more friendly to new players, things like that, and even returning players.
Yeah,
because no one wants to mess up once and then have to wait and to queue up again.
Yeah, it's rough, and I mean, some people enjoy that kind of atmosphere, and you can still get it with Wolfsden. You're not going to get it right now, I don't think. I mean, have you guys tried queue it up for it since?
Oh yeah, it still pops.
Really?
It still pops.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
8 to 16
Well, they changed the ranking system. They removed it at 3.2. They removed it at or 3.15. I don't remember when they removed it. They removed it before the 3.2. Yeah. They removed it so you don't queue up with that set number of average ranking with everybody else. So it's basically just if you're queuing and anybody else is in the queue, you're going to get a pop.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's actually awesome. That makes me feel a lot better about it. I thought it was going to die out from the Feast, and everybody was just going to move to this new mode, and no one was really going to go to it. Like you're like CT, right? You have to have a night dedicated to CT to get anyone in it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, all right. So you guys feel? I should ask you guys this directly. Do you feel like the Feast has lived up to the hype that it came with before it actually came out? You're like, before it came out, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm ready for this. I'm so excited to see what happens. Did it live up to what you were hoping for, Joe?
I think it did.
Steve, go ahead.
Go ahead. You're good. I'll go. You're good.
Yeah,
I'll talk forever. You give me a chance to talk, I'll talk, dude. You go. It's all good, man.
I do have like an endless list of criticisms for it, but yeah, it has revived PvP, and it's a lot better than I expected it would be based on what we knew at the start, and I'm enjoying it right now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Excellent.
Back to Joe, who was originally the person who asked.
Go ahead.
I think the last time I was here, I talked about PAX Prime and getting a chance to talk to Foxclon, and basically him dropping the hint to me that 4v4 PvP was going to be the next update for PvP after Shield Rock came out. And since then, I've been looking forward to this, and I've been hyping myself up. You know the way I live my life and the hype that it is. But
right.
For me, like it becomes very situational because like I'll always remember those first moments for me, like when day one, 3:30 a.m., an hour and a half before the patch was supposed to be live, servers came on, and there were hundreds of people in the Wolves Den. And I remember that exact moment when the feast came out, and it was like, wow, people care about PvP. You know, this is a part of the game where I've never seen people become catalyzed. Nobody was catalyzed over PvP. It was always like, you know, everybody lining up in the North Shroud or lining up at Wineport, you know, for or lining up in North Thanalan for coils and lining up in the hinterlands for coils and stuff. But I saw people coming together over PvP. And for me, just that moment by itself, like seeing people alive in the pier, on the pier, like nobody's ever there. It's been dead since it came out. Like nobody's ever hanging out there. Just to see people hanging out, you could talk to somebody up front. I was sending friend requests out left and right because I was meeting PvP players. Like people would call and be like, yo, Joe, man, I love what you do, stuff like that, because we were finally in the core. It was alive. It was real at that point. I think for what it is and how Square Enix is adapting to the feedback for it, I think that it's what we need in the game right now. It's something that you can go in, you can get quick matches, you can fight some people, it's competitive, it's very skilled if you want to play it skilled, or you can do it 8v8 and still get your lore and get other things out of it in a casual way. So I think 100% it's lived up to the hype, and I didn't think it was going to be as fun as it is. Like I really like it. I'm having a blast playing, even though it's kind of crazy sometimes if you get Chesty McMellons on your damn team. Damn it, Chesty.
Yeah, and you get so excited that you go crazy, and then you throw your headset, and you're like, "Who's God? You gotta tell me who's the best."
Who's the man?
I want to hear you say it.
Say my fucking name.
Joe, Jesus. I was watching that video, and I was just like, "Holy fuck, Joe! You gotta calm down, man."
Nah, bro. No, that's what I live for in this game. You got to know that, man. Like those moments. There was 10 seconds left on the clock, and I LB'd a fucking tank to win. Come on, dude. Like, is that not the most exciting thing ever? Come on, bro.
It was pretty awesome, man. It was pretty awesome.
So good.
A lot of people, when we started asking about PvP, they wanted to know they wanted a rundown of the jobs. They wanted to know what jobs are doing well, what jobs are doing bad, what's really out there for every class, so people know what to expect. Hey, I play a paladin. I don't care about anything else. Well, if a paladin's good, and to tell me if not, then I'm out. For now until they fix it. And so I wanted to go into each role and each job that we can, just a quick rundown of what you guys know about these jobs. And I first want to start off with the tanks. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with tanks right now in PvP, but hopefully at least enough to give us a solid answer on it. So this is the question that was posed from a few people who are asking about PvP when I was starting to talk about the show. What roles do tanks really play in PvP?
It depends on which one you choose, really. So the paladin it has the stun locks, it has cover, it now has shields and a massive heal, and it also has the best tank cooldown, which is I forget now, Hallowed Ground, which allows it to pick up more medals than Warrior Dark Knight could do. Although if you've got Dark Knight in your team, you should reconsider playing them because they're extremely weak right now because they don't bring anything to the table that Warriors do.
Okay.
And then Warriors, they trade all the utility aside from a small stun and Holmgang for extra burst, extra damage, things like that.
Okay.
It depends on what camp, but those two are in very good spots. Dark Knight, however, is not.
So we got utility with Paladin, so they come in and they have their whole role with stunning and doing all that stuff, and Warrior's about bursting damage. Yep. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah, you've got what the cool thing with Paladin and Warrior is that they have their own clear, defined position in PvP. Like if I want to go in for burst, obviously Warrior. If I want to go in for CC, if I want to go in for more defensive with the cover and hollow ground and things like that, I've got the Paladin. Dark Knight doesn't really have its own identity right now. It was kind of, from what I believe, like kind of thrown in last minute in terms of PV. Well, not thrown in. It was implemented in the game in terms of PvE. It's got its own special skills, but when it came to PvP at the time, there wasn't a lot of thought put into how is it going to become unique? How is it going to have its own role and be different than Warrior and Paladin? It doesn't have the burst that Warrior has, and it does not have the mitigation that Paladin has. So it's kind of like, literally, why would you be a Dark Knight right now? And this is exactly the type of conversation that we have as a PvP community. Like prefacing this whole thing real quick, like this is such a cool opportunity for us because like as a PvP community, there exists a group of players that like have been talking about these topics and have been contemplating these ideas for months and like literally every single day since this stuff has come out. And just to throw out, like, this is really cool because we had this conversation, was it 5 days ago at the last PvP conference? It's 5 days ago.
PvP conference?
Yeah, like this is the second. All right, so prefacing, we got to shout out T-Pan in terms of like being a PvP god. There is a guy on Gilgamesh, his name's T-Pan, along with Nikoza, along with Pochi, who run PvPreborn.com and FFXIV PvP. Like this is the PvP conference is the group and culmination of legitimately the best players in North America, the best PvPers in the United States of America. There is no one in the world with more experience and knowledge in PvP in this group of players. And I was extremely grateful to have an invite to this first conference. And at this first conference, they basically ran down like what is it to be a PvP player? If you guys want to join the FC, like this is what it is. This is how we set up rankings. This is how serious we're going to take PvP. And at the second conference we had last week, basically the rundown was from the first conference was what I said was, basically, I talked to everybody and said the amount of knowledge that this is, the amount of like specific info that this group has, there's got to be some way that we can communicate with Square Enix about this. Like I know too many people in Square Enix. I know too many people working there from meeting them at cons and bumping into people from marketing and things like that. Like I know way too many people for them to not have a direct tap on this knowledge than not. You know what I mean? So I've been working back and forth to set up a connection between a dev team and the PvP team in North America, and we successfully did that last week, which was amazing. I was able to set up a direct line of knowledge that got from, I'm not naming any names, but a direct source of communication from the Rum Raisin fan club and the PvP conference to legitimately Yoshi P and the dev team at Square Enix, so that they can take this type of feedback that we have over every single class, over what could be changed, what needs to be implemented, and how that could be shown in the game. And that's why I get so hyped up about stuff like this, because like when it comes down to like a PvP community, Square Enix is legitimately taking their time and taking it seriously, where they're listening to NA community. We've actually influenced the Japanese community team so that they're now reaching out to Japanese players, the top Japanese players on JP servers, and asking them for the same type of feedback that we gave the NA team. And it's like changing the game in itself. So, you know, when we talk about Dark Knight, we talk about different classes, we talk about tanks, like this is the type of stuff that they are considering and talking about as a dev team to make it serious, to make it legit, and to make PvP more fun and scaled for everybody, which is awesome.
So let's dive into it a little bit. So what's making Dark Knight, besides them just not having like a set, like not one extreme or the other, what's making Dark Knight fail so horribly at the moment?
It's basically a monk that has no one-in punch.
Yeah,
that's actually probably one of the main reasons. It's got the full swing, which is what all tanks have. Which, if people don't know, it increases the damage taken by, I think it's 20%. Joe, I don't play tank.
Yeah, I think it's 15 or 20%, and then one goes up. It goes up higher if you scale it with the skill.
Yeah. So they have that, but then the other PvP skills. So like Paladin has Testudo, which is it just flat reduces damage of any of your allies who get hit by the buff by 25%, which is huge against. It's not only huge against burst, it's also huge against summoner because it works against magic damage.
It's both magic and physical.
Yeah, and,
it's OP. Tetsuno is OP.
Yeah, Tetsudo is amazing. especially when you combine it with
Yeah.
any kit the healers have. Dark Knight has Tar Pit, which is it slows people around him. Yeah, that's great. And then you have Carnal Chill, which if you hit every single person on the enemy team, because it's like a ranged area of effect, you have to hit every other person on the enemy team for it to be still not as good as Testudo. It's so underwhelming. I know what they tried to get for is like a peeling, like a peel, like a hybrid between peel and warrior, but it just didn't work out very well.
So
yeah.
What could they do to fix that? I mean, is there like, could they just make the skills stronger? Should they make the circle that slows everyone down around Dark Knight like huge? Or, I mean, what could they do?
This is the thing. This is the exact type of conversation we had. The solutions that we had discussed were what could we do that would fit in with the lore of Dark Knight that would allow players to like really love the ability and make it stand out in a way that wasn't just copying Paladin or Warrior. And one of the things
doing a terrible version of both.
Correct. One of the things that we had talked about was an ability that would, I don't know if we had talked about it being AoE or whatever it was, but an ability that would turn the Dark Knight's damage, like a really super enhanced bloodbath, like Dark Knight's damage, or even the entire team's damage, anybody that got hit with a area of effect, a team's damage into HP for a certain target. So, like, obviously the Dark Knight DPS in Final Fantasy XI and tank in Final Fantasy XIV has an ability to regen somewhat. But what if it was like heals through damage and things like that? Like, what would be specifically unique to Dark Knight? Something that would 100% fit the lore, but not be Home Gang, not be Inner Beast, not be Hallowed Ground. You know what I mean? So stuff that would work and be completely different than anything else, but also give it a unique standout or something that would be different.
So let's talk about that whole setup too, because do you guys feel like each role should pretty much feel the same responsibility within the group, or is it great that like paladins are different than warriors? If you want to get a different setup and you go with different combinations, are you guys really liking the difference between what jobs you pick? That you can pretty much say, all right, well, if I pick a paladin, then I want this, this, and this with me because it complements his abilities in there, right? Or would you rather just be all the exact same thing? You go in there, tank is going to do the same thing every single time, no matter what they play.
Right now, having different types of roles, even in the DPS, you have Monk's win condition is entirely different to Dragoon's win condition, which is just burst someone, which is basically Dragoon's like a melee machinist, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is compared to Ninja, and Ninja is like Monk, but it has different CC, which is quite important in certain aspects. And then also, if you want to be really cheesy, you grab the medals and then hide for the rest of the game.
It can happen.
Yeah, it does happen.
It can happen.
It's really infuriating, but it happens. Okay. But yeah, I don't think they should be the same. So finding Dark Knight to make it viable without just making it at Paladin or at Warrior, having the hybrid between both could work, but right now it doesn't. So we need to try and find the good spot for it that's also unique.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's no point like going it really, unless it's overpowered, which I doubt it will be.
We have a suggestion from chat here that I would go ahead and throw out to you guys. Crimson Dragon 12. How do you give, or well, I guess this is more of just a question. How do you give a group HP drain ability utility without becoming overpowered? It's very easy to make that overpowered and antiquating it other tanks meta. So basically, do you guys feel like HP drain ability would pretty much screw over the other tanks and you would always have to bring a Dark Knight?
I don't think it would, because black mages and white mages have superior control, so they would be the counter to this particular set of skills if it worked. The drain can be moved up or down. It could be 25%, it could be 10%. There's a lot of ways to bring it back on, nerf it or buff it, depending on how it's.
Mm-hmm.
For example, maximum burst on a machinist right now is looking in the ballpark of like 20k damage. Okay, so if you say you're going to take one person's damage, this is just hypothetically, if you're going to take one person's damage and take 10% of that and turn that into a heal, that's a 2,000 heal. That's a second wind for 10% of one player's damage for their entire burst. So depending on the time that it sets, depending on the percentage, there's 0%. I think that there's 0% chance that could get like super OP. If it's like 50% of damage for your entire team's output for 30 seconds, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like that's insane. You know, you'd be invincible for a while. But even if it was that, again, like Steve says, like it can be controlled, it can be slept, it can be stunned, it can be locked up, it can be immobilized, it can be, it can be bound. There's many different things to affect it. For me, what I love about this game and what I love about the state of it currently is that every single class has its own specifications and it has its own like identity. What I don't want to see is like, I want everyone to have their own abilities, but I don't want one to be way more powerful than the other, so that if I was 4v4 solo queuing, there would be a meta and one and like as a 4v4 team queue, there'd be only one composition. That's the thing that you want to avoid. I think when it comes down to it, like it's the reason why Summoner got nerfed. It's the reason why Dark Knight needs a buff. It's the reason why Monk's One Punch should probably be taken a look at. It's the reason why Ninja is like the third most played DPS class as of right now. Like every class has their burst, every class has their opening combo, and every class has their max damage. But like, how are you going to do that in synergy with a random range DPS and a different type of healer and a different type of tank? So
I guess like another question then is, should they really make it to where jobs are, I guess, balanced versus random people? Like if you go in as a solo queue, you don't really want to balance that to be like, oh, well, I'm balancing it because, we don't know who's going to be with them. You want to balance it towards optimal groups, right?
Yeah. So right now, the set of balancing that happened that came through, which was the 15% casting threshold before you get interrupted. They have to deal 15% of your maximum health and any shields before it interrupts, which basically allowed me to go Black Mage and never have to use Equanimity Shortcast ever. I think I've done, I've done, since that buff, I've done 130 4v4s, won 98% of them, and I've never used Equanimity in that time, maybe once or twice. And that's on Black Mage. On White Mage, it got even bigger buff than that. It's just
to say this, like, just for anybody who's watching at home, like, Steve is the most technically skilled Black Mage that I have ever played against and have the pleasure of watching in my entire life. Like, there is a whole nother level of player talking to you guys at home right now. And this, and like, I'm not fluffing him up in any way, shape, or form. Like, this is like solid statement of fact. Like, probably one of the best Black Mages that will ever play this fucking game in North America ever.
That's a pretty big statement.
I'm keeping it real. Like, this is fact, yo. Like, for Joe, fact. Like, it's obviously opinion, but like, he's really, really fucking good. So to have a player of that type of skill, it's gonna make that swing really big. Like, to have a next cross as a monk on your team, you're pretty much gonna have a win. You know what I mean? Like, that's the level of play when it comes down to whatever class you're playing. If you are incredibly skilled, it's going to very drastically influence your win percentage. And, hopefully we can get into like that type of stuff per class as this broadcast goes out for anybody who's interested in playing whatever the classes they want to play. It's very different to have, and especially for a class like Black Mage. Black Mage has a large amount of damage, and also the CC is insane. So
yeah. So and the going on what I was talking about, how it buffed Black Mage and White Mage so much, and that came from them buffing, and their reasoning was, oh, we found that healers are complaining that if they're new to the feast, then they're not getting casts off, so we're going to buff them, which is it boggles my mind because I'm not that open-minded. I'm just very like hard in theory craft and stuff. So when they say something like that, I was like, why would you do that? Why would you say, oh, this guy who doesn't know how to PvP yet is complaining that he doesn't know how to PvP, so we're just going to buff the class so people who do know how to play it can abuse it endlessly, which is what's happening.
Right.
So I hope they actually, with Joe helping to steer them onto the right track of getting actual context and a discussion on why something should be buffed, nerfed, maybe why something should be left alone for now. I think that's the most ideal thing. Don't buff it for new players.
No.
And I mean, like, we could talk about, like, if I was going to devil advocate that, the only thing I would say is, like, hey, we're making it so people getting entry into the PvP scene have a better time getting into the PvP scene and they enjoy it more. But in the end, that screws it over for long-term play. And that's so I completely agree with that.
The tough thing about scaling and any changes that we make in the game right now is that I'd probably say, I don't even know what it'd be great to get some analytics on this, but there's a portion of the community that has been playing PvP that has a large amount of skill, and then there's a large portion and a portion of the community that is coming in and playing for the first time. So how do you appease both sides? You know what I mean? Like, what I believe you want to avoid is, like, I get upset. We've talked about this in raiding in general, like the community that wants to hardcore raid that says, man, this shit is hard, make it easy. And then there's like, yo, you need to learn how to get good at this. And that's why that's why I promote events like Friday Night Fights, and I broadcast Friday Night Fights over the last months. Like, we've been talking about how to get good at PvP for months. We've been talking about it for years, when it comes down to it. So if you're not involved in this community and you want to ride the hype train of the feast right now and you're not good, and you shouldn't be complaining, you should be practicing at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, we as a PvP community have been incredibly supportive of new people and getting new people involved in terms of knowledge, in terms of gear sets, in terms of strategy, in terms of classes, whatever you need. We've placed Nikoza and Pochi have found places and created places where you can check out your own stats, where you can set up your own communities, get with players, and get involved. But there's a large group of people that just take this lazy approach that says, now I'm going to play right now, and I'm going to complain to the people that make the game, that have spent the time and the effort and the energy to create this for us, and complain to them that I'm not good at it. So please change it. I would like to differentiate that from the like legitimately high level skilled play that would be affected by any changes over the long run. Like putting that buff in Steve's hands, you can see the outcome that is created from that, yo. He's like 100% changed the way that he plays the game as a black mage. Yeah. And that's something that's going to affect the community over the course of time. It's going to affect possible esports competitions, which is what Square is somewhat potentially campaigning for. They want this to be competitive. They want this to be serious. They want people to be involved in it from other types of games. So, like, it's very difficult to walk that line between how am I going to get people that have no freaking clue about PvP involved and want to stay involved, especially if they're losing, to get to a place where they become skilled and still want to remain skilled over a long period of time.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into Melee a little bit here and talk about it. And there's a one role here that a lot of people have a lot of criticism about, but we're gonna get to that here in a second. First, I want to start off with Ninja. And basically, first off, what role does Melee have? Is it usually just bursting, or is it completely different depending on if you choose Ninja, Monk, or Dragoon?
Generally, it is burst, but there are different nuances. If you just want to burst, then you have Dragoon. If you want to burst but also be able to deny buffs, strip someone out of attunement, which is basically healer, dodges most attacks, and any attacks that do hit only does 10% damage for 10 seconds. Monk can knock them out of that quite easily, things like that. Ninja is more, it has burst, it did have speed until it was nerfed in Fossil Rock. I still don't know why that stays in. And it can do quite a lot of things while also be very mobile. I would say Ninja is the weakest of the three, but it's still very, very, very powerful in the right person's hands. Its main issue is it doesn't have Fetter Ward, which it means it ignores.
We're getting trolled hard, dude.
Yeah, pretty.
Still, what is going on?
It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. It's what it kind of happens.
Yeah.
So give me a second here, if you don't mind. I'm going to take a quick moment.
We're getting up.
This joke.
The worst one I've ever gotten was it hard telling your parents that you're gay? Because you vape. That's the worst one I've ever gotten, but this is hilarious.
I sympathize with him. I know someone on Facebook who vapes, and every post he does is about vaping.
Yeah. So if anyone in the chat that is familiar with the show and that I recognize your name and you've been with for a while and you want to help out with the moderation part here, it'd be good. Just speak up real quick and let me know. and I'll try to get you guys in there. But yeah, poor Kurt.
on
It's bots.
stream.
Yeah.
It's bots, dude. Yeah, it's bots. You can
I'm
put
gonna
the
start- I'm
chat
gonna
into
start
slow
vaping
mode.
to piss these guys
Put the
off.
chat into slow mode,
Slow
and then
mode?
you can.
How do I get into slow mode? Do I just type
You can just pull up your settings.
all right. Where is it at?
It should be like the little roll wheel.
All right. Slow mode. Boom. There we go.
Yeah. And then just time out everybody.
Okay.
It's a bot, so
Yeah.
The chat looks like solo queue when everyone line of sights the healer and then blames
Yeah.
him.
There we go. That might help out a little bit there. All right. So I'm gonna do a couple of things here to just kind of alleviate the situation a bit.
I'm sorry for vaping on your channel, bro.
I knew it was gonna
You
happen.
need to advertise. You need to advertise, dude. Like
I know. I
I'm,
knew
us-
it was
I'm
gonna
using
happen.
I'm using the vanilla and strawberry flavor today, and I'm using this chamber which has I don't know anything about vaping. I know that they have custom chambers or some shit like that.
Oh yeah. I can't. Well, at least we got some bots coming in. That means we're getting a little bit of attention, right?
341 viewers, like twice the viewers from bots. Jesus.
Yeah, these bots are. That's the first time that it's come in like that too. It's all right. We got a couple of people here going in, and they're gonna help out a little bit here. And it's all bots. It's all bots, but that's okay. Let's keep it going. Hopefully, chat will calm down a little bit, and if someone can report it as well that we have bots kind of coming on the stream, that'd be appreciated. But we're gonna keep going on with the show because we don't want to make it about bots, right?
You could have Moobot auto time out people that say vape.
Oh,
now,
I
I
could,
guess.
can I?
Yeah.
Kerr, if you want to set that up to where Moobot, anyone who says vape gets auto timed out, or vaping.
Vape and stupid too.
And virgin.
When it comes down to, if we want to get back to it, when
Yeah.
it comes down to melee classes, each specific melee has its own role. Obviously, I have a lot of experience playing Dragoon and mainly Dragoon. Dragoon has a large burst, has a large chance to crit with 3 different buffs for crit in Litany, Internal Release, and Impulse Rush, which is awesome. And Dragoon also has 2 different stuns and a slow. So Dragoon has its own specifics. Ninja and Monk have their own specifics. Every class has their own burst and their opening combo with buffs and everything like that. Monk shines through with 1-0 punch and a high large amount of constant DPS. Ninja has a burst and also has trick attack and hide, which is something like an alternate side. From the feedback that I've gotten and from getting involved in the PvP conference, the difference between Dragoon and Monk and Ninja right now is that Ninja is like underwhelming compared to the other two. So one of the things that we discussed as a group with everybody is also what could we do with Ninja? What could be done when it comes down to it? And how could it be implemented in another way? Like we talked about giving Ninja Feather Ward, right? Oh, pardon me, not Feather Ward. What is it?
Which one?
Giving Ninja. What is it?
The hide.
The evasion.
Evasion? Yeah, the rehide. The one
No,
we discussed
no.
was-
Perfect dodge.
No, we talked about it's the buff that looks like this. They jumps back and
Featherfoot.
forth. Featherfoot, yeah.
Okay, Featherfoot.
So if you gave
I thought you were dancing to try and remember.
no, that's what the buff is. If you go like this, that's Featherfoot.
I thought that was just what they do.
But if we were to give Ninja Featherfoot, how that would affect a PvP environment as well. But Ninja is somewhat underwhelming when it comes down to it. I haven't played specifically, so I know. For me personally, when it comes down to it, like I play Dragoon because it's got 3 gap closers and a high burst. Monk has 1 gap closer. Ninja has 1 PvP specific gap closer, and they both have burst. But I mean, it just feels so good when you jump on somebody and it crits for 3K, and then you follow it up with a full thrust and they're dead. You know what I mean? Like it's really powerful. I love to be able to affect other classes with feint. Like that's a big thing too. Like to be able to slow somebody down and put a serious damper on everybody else as a team. Like just running through, take 2 GCDs and slow their healer and slow their top DPS or whatever it is. Like that's a big thing for 20 seconds. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's pretty. Feint is actually moving into machinist territory too, which we'll get into that. We're going to hold off because there's a lot to talk about with machinists.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we're going to hold off on them. So we've talked about with Monk. do you guys feel like the whole atmosphere between them and Scholar is completely ridiculous, where they can go up and just completely destroy a Scholar, or is that just...
Scholar's by no means a bad healer, but the fact it's the only one that has such a big loss condition, which is lose its Aetherflow stacks. But there are a lot of ways to combat against that, because a lot of people use Aetherflow stacks at the start of the game, then run in, it gets stripped, and then they die, more or less. But they can hold on to it and then use it when they need it, which it just comes into that thing, what, don't buff people who don't know how to play the game type thing. It's just these very small nuances which increase your effectiveness by so much. That's a good example. And the other main issue they have is if they die and respawn, they have to summon their fairy again, which either wastes time or wastes a swift cast, which is not ideal, especially considering if you die, the amount of momentum the other team builds up is huge, and they can just push that so hard. So you don't want to be waiting to summon something off the respawn.
Right. That's pretty rough. I mean, does that make monks overpowered by any means, though? Do you always want a monk in there because it completely... They are
the hard counter to scholar teams.
Yes.
And summoner teams. They always were. That was the reason, because in level 50 that was their job. They didn't have much in the way of burst. Now they do. Now they can do two things. But the other problem is paladins can also counter scholar. Astrologians can also counter scholar because they all have strips. Aetherflow strips.
Okay.
It's slightly more random, but it's still very powerful.
And it's not one of those things where it's like it's one of those things where you want to have, it would be ideal to have a monk versus a scholar. And it would suck to be a scholar versus a monk, or a summoner versus monk. But I don't think it's to the point where you'd say, like, I want to only have a monk on my team. If I was, like, for every melee DPS to have to play monk or want to play monk because of one ill punch, I don't think it's to that point. It's really nice when it happens, but I don't think it's like, hey, now if you're next cross, then yeah. if you're next, dude, you're gonna carry your team as a monk. But I think that it's definitely not something that's like, monk is not so far beyond other DPS that it would be like monk is the number one class. So
yeah, there's no overarching good best comp that you would only play, because there's always counters to that comp, and then there's counters to that comp.
If you have a black mage versus a monk, you can sleep the monk, and then you know what I mean. You can stun him with a paladin. So there's lots of different things that would stop that from happening. Obviously, if you have like one set strategy in your mind and you can implement that and you can manifest that into a game, then yeah. But if you can't do that, like if I have my full burst going, I've got all my buffs popped, and I get slept, all my buffs are gone. I've got no purify, my buffs are gone. Nobody else on my team has purify. I'm done. I just wasted everything. Obviously, if I go in and burst somebody, I could probably kill him off the rip, but there's always something that can happen. A team can always interrupt, and they can always gimp in some way.
Do you guys feel like they should completely... So they shouldn't change it. They should just leave it, right? Right now, that's kind of how the game's designed. There's going to be rock, paper situations, and it should stay that way. Or is there a fix that needs to happen?
I think scholars need a buff in some form. I think mainly the fairy. I think the fairy should respawn when you do, provided it doesn't die beforehand. If no one kills it, actually kills it beforehand. In terms of Aetherflow, I don't know. I don't think monk should be nerfed. I think scholar maybe gets protection on something or some form to be able to protect against fairy and maybe Aetherflow stacks.
Okay.
What we discussed at the conference was basically what would it look like? How would it change the game if a monk, like in different ways, if a monk could only strip off X amount of stacks, or the other thing that we had discussed was what would it look like if that were to happen with the fairy? How would that change the game from here on out? Because everything that we talk about is, okay, this is what the current state is. How are players dealing with this? And then what would it look like if we did this? Not let's do this and then let's just do it leave it at that. It's like, if we did this, how would that affect the game? And as of right now, the state of it is that Scholar is Scholar's in the same position as Ninja, as the same position as Dark Knight, where those three classes need some attention and need some adjusting to even it out a little bit more. Every single class still obviously has its own unique role and unique identity, but there are some that are a little more underwhelming than others at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's jump in. Did you want to go into a deep dive about Dragoons and kind of what they should be doing with their builds and everything else, Joe? Or are you?
If you want, absolutely, I'm 100%.
Okay.
Especially if there are Dragoons here that were looking for the knowledge, just for Dragoons in general. I made a best in slot YouTube video about what the best in slot Dragoon gear would be, scaling around a 390 accuracy cap. Apparently, that the accuracy cap fluctuated a little bit, and it's about 408 roughly. Steve, for melee. It's roughly
407, if I recall.
407, 408, something like that. So I made my build based off of 404 accuracy. So I'm a little bit under that. You can swap out the earrings, but for me personally, like as I've been talking for the last 2 years, when it comes to a new player playing PvP, there's a lot of things that you can do to set yourself off right. I'm going to specifically talk about Dragoon for right now. If you are a Dragoon, and you're interested in becoming a Swagoon, it's very simple. There's a path to take. Number one, the first thing that I always talk about is gearing. Set yourself up for success. Get yourself ready before you even set foot into a match of PvP. If you take your PvE gear, which is spec'd in accuracy and has skill speed and things like that on it, and you go into a match versus another Dragoon that is optimally geared, you're never going to do as much DPS ever if you have the exact same rotation. If you're using the same rotation, you're never going to do as much DPS. So take a little bit of time. You can check out a guide. There are several different guides. I think I actually might do more guides for other classes and things like that. But what you want to do is scale and make sure that you have enough accuracy to never miss in PvP, which is 407. And then from there, stack as much critical hit and as much det as you can on your gear to make every single hit as heavy as possible. Once you do that, you know your Dragoon is really super strong, and then you can go in and start working on a match. I'm not saying that like gear is going to replace skill in any way, shape, or form, but once you have that ready to go, like you can do that without doing PvP. You can do that as you're gaining wolf marks. You can trade in wolf marks for PvP gear that has crit and dead on it. You can do it as you're doing your experts throughout the week. You can look for the level 60 dungeons that drop the crit det spec gear. Like off the top of my head, I can run down left side of a Dragoon, Thornton weapon, 205 PvP helm, 205 PvP chest, your 185 gloves of the daring duelist, esoterics belt, 180 PvP legs, and 180 PvP feet on your left hand side. On the right hand side, you've got your esoterics neck, your 210 Gordian, or 210 Alexander earrings, which is crit det, but are going to be replaced with the 180 Osserin, your Centurio Seals earring if you're looking for the accuracy cap of 407 or above. The esoterics bracelets, the Ring of the Daring Duelist, or the 180 PvP ring, or the 190 Alexander ring are all spec'd crit det. The top three, the necklace, the earring, and the bracelets are accuracy crit. So you're going to be weighted as high as possible. You're going to have like 740 something crit and the cap of 540 something det. And you know that every single swing of your spear is going to be as strong as motherfucking possible. From there, you can say, hey, I'm going to go in and now learn what it is to be skilled as a Dragoon. And for me, if you're going into a match, Steve, you can reflect on this as well and comment on this as well. Dragoon's win condition is burst. So how am I going to apply my burst as effectively as possible when I go into a match? For me, when I first started playing PvP, this was in Wolves Den, like well long ago. There was no defense buff. There was no offense buff. Nothing that was going to change the swing of things. You were going to go in and burst the healer. As soon as the healer died, you pretty much won the match. You're not respawning, blah, 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 blah. In the feast, not only is your healer going to come back, but you may not even want to burst the healer first. It's 100% situational based off of legitimately the player that you're matching up against, who's got a defense buff, who's got the offense buff, whether it's a melee or whether it's the ranged, and you have to adjust on the fly. The set of priorities that I go through is if it's a healer that has the defense buff, you're going to hit the melee first. Or pardon me, you're going to hit the ranged first. Take the ranged out. You can usually take the melee out because it's going to be a little bit easier than the healer to kill the melee. Once the melee are dead, you can focus the healer. You can crush the healer if you can without your healer getting worried about it, and then continue from there. If the ranged has a defense buff, You can rush the melee, wreck the melee, then wreck the healer, then wreck the person with the defense buff and continue from there. It's very rare that the melee is going to have a defense buff, so there's no point in really talking about that. Now, if you're talking about having another player in your team, if you have a paladin or if you have a black mage in your team, they have the ability to control, or a white mage in your team, you can sleep the healer and then kill the melee. So it's very specific. I can't just go in and burst the healer and do the exact same rotation that I'm doing every single time and expect to have a win or expect to create a win for my team. It's very situational. I have to be able to adjust on the fly, especially if I get stunned or if somebody on my team gets slept or whatever it is. You have to be more you have to be a lot more aware and alert when it comes down to PvP.
Okay. Well, there you go, guys. If you want your in-depth Dragoon.
Boom, son!
There you go. It's done.
I can't believe he memorized every single piece of gear and where to get it from.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive, man.
I'm
guessing you were asked that a lot.
I get asked it a lot, and I did the research when I made the video. I wanted it to be 100%. I not only did that for the video, but I came up with every single alternate piece of gear that was crit dead spec'd on your left-hand side. Everywhere else in the game, I know every single piece of gear that you can only get one. You can only get of one, like the gloves of the Daring Duelist. You guys know if anybody's watching my stream. The gloves of the Daring Duelist, there's the only piece of gear in the game that's crit death spec'd. The 210 earrings, the 210 Alexander earrings on the right side are the only piece of crit death spec'd gear in the entire game between eye level 150 and 240. So there's only certain places you can get that gear. There's alternates, there's replacements between 150 and 240 at certain different places, but there are certain pieces of gear that you can only get one place. So the effort that I put into getting that gear and making that guide was serious. I did over 80 runs of the Arboretum and Ferris Sirius hard mode to get those gloves, which is nuts. But I wanted to make a serious guide. I wanted to make a very serious guide for PvP, especially when it came down to Dragoon. I'm upset that the accuracy cap was not legit, but it's all good.
Okay. All right. So let's jump into the next section, which Steve's going to be a lot more familiar with because it's going to be ranged.
Yes.
And when you come to Black Mage, definitely. So with Black Mages, and I guess it's weird because you put range together with Machinist, Bard, Black Mage, and Summoner. Are they super different, or are they kind of repeat each other?
They're pretty different. Like Bard and Machinist is just burst, like straight up burst, especially Machinist, which is just a single shot burst at this point. Summoner was, a very heavy pressure base. In level 50, it was just you got the dots up on someone, and then you got the Bane off when people were around him. If the enemy healer was an Astrologian, they just can't heal through that unless they pull something crazy off or everyone purifies. And the amount of damage that comes out is crazy, and then you just follow up with terrible ruins, some CC, and that was it. Now they have burst, and that's slightly different. I still don't understand why their Tri-Disaster doesn't cost an 8th flow stack, but I don't play Summoner.
Right, dude.
Black Mage is basically the unique one. It has the highest some of the highest potency spells in the game because it's got long cast times, but it's also the tankiest caster. If you build full vitality, it's almost close to 13,500 health, which is just
talk about that a little bit too, to explain to anybody who's trying to play Black Mage, because that's something that no one else does that but you, bro, and it's the reason why. I'm telling you.
So Black Mages their potencies are so high. Their potencies are so high that if they build intelligence and you ignore them, you will just straight up lose like 90% of your matchups against them. If you're ignoring them, the amount of damage they put out is just not healable, even if they don't use the sleeps and stuff, which they will be doing. So because of that, you always want someone to stop them casting, although that's a bit of a moot point now because they can just ignore you. You want to try and kill them. So you just build tank, you build full vitality, 35 vitality in your bonus points, and you will just have 13.5k health, which is why I go Rogue in for the extra health. And despite all that, you still do ridiculous amounts of damage if you get a Thunder proc train off, if you can set up your Fire 4s, you have Phantom Dart and Raging Strikes, and if anyone tries to stop you, you just Nightwing them and then just laugh away. And you're also incredibly mobile with
Ethereal Manipulation.
That's the one. I was going to say Blink, but that's World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Generally, in solo queue, I don't do too much solo queue. I've done a few, but you could probably get away with just building flat intelligence and just face rolling everything because they're not really going to go for you unless your healer is one of the cancer Q healers, as Joe points out.
Chesty, MVP.
Yeah, if anyone's on Aether and sees Chesty McMellons, is it?
Or
a scholar? Just report it's a bot. It just runs in. It runs in to get Law and the Fenrir pups. And it goes in and just goes in and starts using bio and stuff on people. It doesn't actually heal. It's so bad.
That's horrible, man. I wish I hope they do a lot with the bots and stuff that are kind of abusing it. It really makes it not that fun when you're going in for solo queue.
It's tough because Square Enix has basically come out and said that they are not going to be banning. They're not going to be banning people for it, but I want to open up, which is the dumbest. It's ridiculous because it affects it. Like this is some people's gameplay is revolving 100% around PvP. The same way that they're going to invest time in PvE. Like imagine if you had a tank in a duty finder that just wanted to sit there. They'd get reported, dude, and it's harassment. Yeah. There would be some type of repercussion for it. There has to be a penalty, and I wanna be able to open up that type of dialogue with Square Enix as well. Like there has to be some type of serious penalty so that players will there has to be a consequence for the action. There has to be a consequence because that singular player has a consequence across 3 other people's time and 3 other people's spent money playing that game. You know what I mean? Like we're paying to play this game to have one person harass us in that type of way. It's not fair. It's really not fair. And hopefully
they're getting the rewards as well. They're getting the lore and they're getting the Fenrir pup. Fenrir pup you shouldn't be able to get Fenrir pup off a loss.
From a loss.
And even lore you should get. I say none, but some people say that's a bit too harsh from a loss. I think maybe like 5 from a loss and 15 from a win to more or less balance it out. Assume you get 50% win rate, which you probably won't in solo queue. You're either like 80% or 0%, depending on who you get. I'm so salty about solo queue.
Okay, so we have just real quick. We have bards and machinists are supposed to be real bursty. They fit in the same role, right? Except for people are kind of preferring machinist over bards. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Machinist's damage is very it's pretty much unhealable. You just have to control them if you can right now.
What did Jamie say his max burst was? Like what the potency on his whatever that max burst was, like 480?
540.
540.
And 10% extra crit chance.
Yeah. It's a 500 potency move that's firing off in quick succession. Like the burst it's 20k. It's the same as a black mage. Like you can rip a 20k burst opening combo on anybody. Like
it's
there's
crazy.
not much you can do to it, dude.
And you can set it up yourself. You don't need anyone else to set up that burst. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Which is good for you, Frosty.
Well, I mean, like I play Scholar right now, really, but I guess I'll play Machinist.
I didn't know that, dude.
Yeah, I've switched to Scholar for our raid group, and so I can still play Machinist. That's like my alt class that I play, and I want to play, and that really makes me feel bad because of how popular Machinists are in PvP right now. Because I wish I could have just stuck straight to it. But sticking with Machinists going in there. The people I can play with play ranged DPS, and so it rules that out for a 4v4, and so it sucks. But let's try to get through some of these questions. We have actually a lot of them piling in, and I figured let's hit a couple of these. And I want to actually segment these off to things that are like ranged questions, melee questions, general questions. And so if you guys don't hear your questions come up like immediately, and someone else is there, you go crushing that keyboard again, man. I hear you.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to make fun of you every time you do it, though.
Get him.
All right.
I got T-Pan's on Skype saying I got tiny eyes. He's like the most racist Asian person I know.
Your chops, dude.
Wow.
He hates me because I'm British. No joke. He actually hates me because I'm British.
You got tiny eyes, man.
That's so weird.
And guys, incredible shout out to T-Pan. There's a couple people in the community that need to be recognized. This is Nikoza, Pochi, T-Pan. Like without your guys' effort into like bolstering the PvP community, it wouldn't be like I wouldn't be as hyped as I am about PvP. Like finding you guys and getting a chance to connect with you guys is absolutely huge for me, man. So there's a couple guys that need that recognition. I'm gonna keep shouting them out the whole stream. He's in the chat, baby.
I was stuck at work on the first day of the feast. In 20 hours from the start of the feast till 20 hours later, T-Pan and FaZe Medica were the first, the world first diamond. And they didn't stop PvPing for 20 hours non-stop.
Wow.
And then I got home and they're like, oh man, I need sleep. I was like, oh wow, I'm just on my own now, thanks.
All right, so one of the first questions we have, and this is in regards to range, and it goes in the Bard Machinist conversation. Do you guys have any advice for someone who's beginning as a Bard or Machinist? Is there something that they need to know going into playing?
As a Bard, Wanderer's Minute is like is just so good. Have that. You could just make a macro so that automatically targets your healer just to give it. So if you ever go against a Black Mage, or even if you see a summoner running towards the healer to do Tri Disaster, even though it only blocks the next thing and has the Asuna, it will block all of the Tri Disaster, all 3 of the things. It's very powerful, and its cooldown is just, you should be using it all the time. It's crazy.
Okay. All right. Going on to the next one for ranged here. Would it be good for Bard to cross-class Featherfoot at all for PvP?
I have no idea what the cross classes are, but if you have that spare thing, Featherfoot's very, very powerful, because it doesn't matter how much accuracy you have, Featherfoot is just a flat % chance to dodge something.
All right.
Which is why monks are a very tanky, deceptively tanky class, because they have the 30% recuperation heal, they have a buffed second wind, and they have a buffed Featherfoot. It's pretty ridiculous.
Well, Featherfoot is like the most annoying thing for a Dragoon, because everything's a combo. Like everything has to go together.
You missed both your Spine Shatter, your Dragonfire, and your Get Circle in one burst.
We don't have to talk about that live, man. Oh my god, it was like the worst day ever.
You could open up a salt mine after that happened to you. You were so mad.
And that was from Neon Genesis, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, and one of them missed. One thing I want to say specifically to somebody who's interested in starting a ranged, whether it's machinist or bard, or any ranged class, just know that you're gonna get targeted and people are gonna be coming after you. So being 100% aware of your positioning, being aware of line of sight, being aware of where your healer's positioning is, all of those things are going to be like integral to your success. And just know you're probably going to die a lot. So going in and like not getting butthurt about dying or getting targeted is going to really help you have a much better time. If you go in with the expectation, like if you're a badass PvP bard or machinist or summoner or black mage, and you're going in, you're like, yo, I'm about to kick some fucking ass, man. Watch out for me, yo. It's game over, bro. Like if you're going in with that type of attitude and you get wrecked, you're probably going to have a really bad time. If you go in and you're looking to learn and you're looking to like really understand what goes on in the game and how you need to change your mind state when you go into the feast, I think you'll have a much easier time.
Okay. Next question we have for ranged, and this is a black mage question. The Woofy, should I focus crit and det over spell speed as a black mage?
If you're running Vitality, you'll generally just be going crit and det anyway from your accessory side, because you can't get spell speed on Vitality. If you're going Intelligence, even so, I think spell speed is just the best thing, because it stacks with ley lines really well, because ley lines increases all the spell speed you've got, so the more spell speed you have, the more powerful it is. You still have your shields to stop people hitting you, and you can probably just use Equanimity and then just hit people. I also use spell speed because it's reducing the cast time of sleeps, and that means I don't have to use swift cast most of the time. Basically, my CC is a lot easier to get off. It's not as powerful as it used to be, because you needed to get your hit off before they interrupted you, but now you just don't care. So if in solo queue, you could probably go crit det, but I think I would go spell speed on at least the left side and the weapon for 4v4s.
All right. And we got a few more range questions. We're just going to pound through them real quick. And Crimson Dragon 12, actually, I saw this question earlier, but it was rephrased, so I'm going to use the last one that you asked. With the 15% caster interrupt buff, as was noted earlier, equanimity? I guess that's equanimity. Okay. Sorry, I don't play Black Mage.
Equanimity.
And Sharpcast. Black Mages have a ton of tools to not be interrupted. Does this make Black Mage too overpowered? And perhaps should an interrupt percentage condition be different for healers versus offensive casters?
I think it shouldn't be different. I think it should be the same for casters, but it shouldn't be 15%. It's like White Mage got buffed ridiculously. Scholar got buffed, but it's still the weakest healer. And then Black Mage, before it was you had to juggle between reducing pressure on yourself and peeling for other people. And then if you could do all of that, then you could do some damage and help. you are trading damage for, trading burst for better control. But now you can do both, and I think I wouldn't say it's overpowered in the fact that you will always win if you go Black Mage, because Bard got some nice buffs as well, and Machinist's burst is too good to ignore all the time.
Yeah.
But I think it needs nerfs.
Okay. Bosdy was asking, how badly can a monk... This is a lot of Black Mage stuff. I'm sorry, Joe.
You're good. It's all good, man. All questions are good questions, especially if it's talking about PvP.
Excellent. How badly can a monk slow a Black Mage with spell speed debuff and slow? I guess slow is the move that the monks have. Just
do monks have feint? Because Haymaker, if it can use feint, then yeah, it works, and it's very good on Astro and White Mage.
Haymaker too, but Haymaker's actually not.
It's so bad.
If you really want to, you can Haymaker. We're talking about that.
Yo, hit me. I want to dodge this one thing. Come on.
Yeah, here.
Come on. Why you guys ignoring me? I want to Haymaker you.
Real quick. Monks have feint because it comes from the Dragoon. The Dragoon's actions.
Okay. Feint's pretty good. If you have the chance to set it up, it's 12 seconds on Monk and 20 seconds on Dragoon, or is it just 20 seconds?
I think it's reduced.
Yeah, even though it's really good on healers and casters. If you have the chance to use it before a burst, then use it. It's pretty ridiculous, and the animation is very fast, so it just goes off instantly.
all right.
10 seconds. Strega says
10 seconds. Okay, that's still good. To be honest, that's still enough.
To get isn't Haymaker off OGCD?
Yes, I think.
Okay. Free 2BD1. Last question for me, and I have some other questions before this, but they're not in ranged questions. How viable is Miasma's Infirmity debuff for healing in PvP?
Oh, for the healing debuff? Yeah, it's good. Oh, is Joe talking? No.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, say that question again.
Miasma's healing reduction is actually pretty noticeable, especially if they go Astro, because either the Astro goes healing and then you can burst through it, or he goes for the shields and the mobile pressure, basically. And their heals have been nerfed pretty heavily already. Adding any nerf on top of that, and then even slowing them or following up with, because summoners have that improved virus which reduces their mind, it makes it even, it's pretty crazy. It's very viable.
Okay.
You're talking about the summoner
I thought I was going from a summer perspective, but I guess that's more of a healing perspective question then, right?
Yeah, but it has to be from a healing perspective, because you're using it to nerf their heals. It works against Astro more than the other healers, but it's still very viable.
Okay.
It creates a composition. It creates one of the cool compositions in the game, which is I think this is the same line of. I was missing most of this question. My bad, but
that's fine.
The Astro Summoner Ninja comp, which is with what is it?
65%.
Dancing Edge, Miasma, and all three of those classes working synergistically. You can heal everybody in your team a lot easier. Plus the shield that Astro has, it creates an incredible, makes it a lot easier for a healer to keep the DPS alive, which is really serious. That is one of the cool ways that Ninja currently shines through as a melee DPS when it's coupled with Astro and Summoner. So that's one.
Do you remember
really
the healing percent reduction if you have everything off on the healer? I said it before.
Yeah.
65% reduction.
It's
if you can get it all off, and it only lasts 6 seconds, but it's crazy.
But that's nuts. That's nuts. That's that's really insane. So if you can get everything off on a healer, that's absolutely insane. It's more than 50%, which is nuts.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's it for range questions. We'll move on and go into healers real quick and see if we can jump into that. Unless if you want to talk a little bit more about Black Mage, Steve. You want to jump into that a little bit?
I think the best way is, because I don't do much solo queue, but I think in solo queue, as long as your healer is okay, then you can get away with going pretty much full intelligence, maybe 1 or 2 vitality, and then just doing damage. You have so much. You just get your thunders off, and then you play it like Seal Rock. You get thunders off, your thunder procs. You keep just spamming Thunder 3 with buffs up, and people die. And then maybe if you're feeling a bit cheeky, you set down a ley lines and you use the Fire 5. You just do your PvE rotation, which I still can't do. I haven't used Blizzard 4 once. I was like, oh shit, I have that skill. What should I use that for?
It's so funny to hear the way Steve talks about Black Mage, because it's like, here it is, guys. You heard it here first. Just a couple Thunder 3s, and if you really want to get cheeky, you can throw a Fire 4 in and then people die. You know, that's legit. Like, he plays on such a crazy level. Well, for me as a melee DPS, going up against like fighting a ranged, it's incredibly difficult to fight a full Vit stack Black Mage, because as I'm bursting, my entire burst is getting mitigated and getting healed through the healer, and I really can't. It's very difficult to kill somebody that's full Vit stacked. So coming at it from a melee perspective of like handling that, if you do choose to go full Vit as a Black Mage, which is like really, really crazy, it's incredibly hard to deal with unless you're bursting both DPS, ranged, and melee at the same time, and you have some type of interrupt on a healer. You're probably going to survive as a Black Mage.
And in Team v Team, you won't be doing much damage. You'll be focusing on your CC, because that's the reason you would ever go Black Mage. If you want to do damage, you just go Machinist or Bard. Like, those are just extremely consistent compositions that you would go. So when you're a Black Mage, if you want to practice doing the CC, you want to be saying, right, the healer, is the healer getting attacked? What debuffs has got on him? Should I purify him? If there's people on me, should I be using one of the, or maybe two of the shields now, or should I be CCing them and then miniping away? You need to think about the sleep resistance timers, which is basically you can sleep people for one full duration, one half duration, and one quarter duration. Then after that, they're immune for 1 minute, so it resets after a minute. So you need to keep tabs on that for 4 people, which is. Mm-hmm. And if you mess up once, basically everything collapses and you lose. Which is probably the reason why a lot of people don't like Black Mages, because if you mess up, you just look useless, basically.
Yeah.
But
if you're not doing damage and you're not CCing, then what's the point of you being there?
No. Yeah. So like, generally is like a win condition. As a cookie cutter, like Black Mage, you'll sleep the healer, he'll get purified. Sleep him again, he'll probably get purified again, as long as he uses his purify, and then have your team just switch to him and burst them because he's used the purify. It'll at least force him to use maybe attunement or benediction or prism or things like that, which is something you can then switch to a range or something like that. It's generally controlling. If they get through the control, you hard swap because they've used stuff against you already. They've wasted purify or Wanderer's minute off Bard, things like that.
Okay.
Generally, it's just practice and looking at what you're doing, and it's just the most. It's not the most mechanical. It's not a mechanical class. It's just a very theory based. You have to think of everything all the time class.
That's fun.
Yeah.
But it's not relaxing if you want to come in.
It's not relaxing, especially not in solo queue.
You can go play Stardew Valley if you want to relax.
I'm gonna rant on that guy. I'm gonna rant on the one I ranted to Joe about when I was in.
Okay.
I was like, right, I'm gonna do some Black Mage in solo queue. I woke up nice and early on a Saturday. I was like, I'm gonna do some Black Mage. I'm gonna get to bronze. I'm gonna get some footage for that video I was doing. Mm-hmm. And then I went in, and then someone was like, okay, Black Mage, you sleep this guy and this guy. And then we'll burst this guy, and I'm like, okay, cool. I wouldn't have done that, but you have a plan. I'll follow you. And I went in, I slept that guy, and then they all went on that guy because I marked him as 1. And they were like, why'd you mark him as 1? I was like, just so I can see which ones I'm going for. And I was like, nah, 1 means fight that guy. I was like, is this PvE? Are we doing dungeons right now?
Well, I mean, that's what most people relate it to, right?
Solo queuing. Yeah. It's just so frustrating sometimes. And then I had to just log off and then sit in a corner for a few minutes.
Go play some Stardew Valley, man.
I haven't played that yet.
It's relaxing. It's relaxing. It's calming. But anyways, let's get it back into it. Let's move over to healers a little bit. And healers, a lot of people have said a lot of different things about healers, as if you have a bad healer, you lose the game instantly. You don't even have to think about it. What's the best way for healers to kind of focus their attention during a match in the Feast?
Practice. Is probably the biggest thing. You have to know where your healer is strongest. So Scholar is, you have shields. You will need to get those shields up. You need to be covering your buffs with Eos, maybe using Selene for the AoE Asuna, although I wouldn't really do that. Or just, if you're Astro, do you want to go really good regens? They're better than white mages now if you can get the Collective Unconscious off. Or do you want to go shields and just spam 3 until you win or lose? White mage is the most powerful healer, but it's also the least consistent because the bulk of your healing is through keeping Medica 2 up and keeping regens up, and then sleeping people. Because you're the only healer with a win condition, is you act as a mini white mage, basically. A mini black mage.
Right.
Yeah. But generally it's just practice. You're gonna go into solo queue or AV8 and you're gonna get completely dumpstered for like 10, 20 matches, and then you're gonna start to improve.
Okay.
For me, like framing it around just general PvP, this can go for every single class, but specifically for healer, like do your fucking research, man. Like don't just go in there and be like, oh, first time here, bro. Oh, good luck, guys. Like if I go in, like there was one time I was queuing for Frontlines and I ended up queuing for the Fold too, because I was queuing for my Dragoon and I ended up getting a Fold match as a white mage. So I let everybody know on my team, I was just like, guys, we're dead, so you can really try if you want, but I'm not going to be able to heal you. Like I have 0 experience. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to queue this. Like if someone comes into that match as that perspective, they might be able to get some feedback from their team. But for me, if I were to get excited about trying to play healer in PvP, which I may at some point, I would, first things first, I would watch Twitch. I would find somebody who's white maging. I would find somebody who's scholaring. I would find somebody who's astrologing as a healer in PvP, and I would watch them. I would reach out. I would ask them questions. I would figure out how their mind is working. I would get the best possible gear that I would get, and then I'd go in and I would die over and over and over again until I found a way to survive. Like that's basically what it is. But reach out. There's people in this chat right now that broadcast healer. Like there are people that are incredibly skilled that broadcast this shit, and they deserve attention. They deserve to get the type of focus that the specification and the uniqueness of their class deserves. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how many people broadcast PvP outside of like patch days, outside of me as a caster. You know what I mean? Like I really don't know. But I want to be able to promote as many people as possible that are completely skilled. Like my girl, Kitsuyuki Hime, twitch.tv/Kitsuyuki Hime. She's been healing me in PvP for months, and she kills it as a scholar. She's one of the most skilled scholars that I've ever played with, except when she's drunk. My girl. Don't be drunk and heal me, because you can't do it. But like if you are looking out, there are none that stream. There are some that stream.
A lot of people who stream are down there at the bottom of the list, though. You got to look a little bit.
That's the thing.
Stefan should stream. Doesn't Stefan stream?
Stefan, right there in chat, Stefan de Lumiere, is one of the most skilled healers I've ever come across in PvP. Hands down. If you're looking to ask questions about healing in PvP, reach out, follow him. Just throw him a follow on Twitch if he's fucking.
Right click his name and hit the heart,
right
man.
click. Whisper his ass, dude. I'm not fucking around. Like he deserves attention, bro. Like the knowledge, for the amount of people that have the knowledge compared to the amount of people that are interested in the knowledge, it's overwhelming. It is overwhelming for the people that have put the time and the effort in. Like Steve could probably charge to give Black Mage lessons because that's
actually
skilled at Black Mage, dude.
So yeah. I logged on one day and some dude was like, "Oh man, I've seen your Black Mage. I'll pay you 1 mil gil a week to teach me how to Black Mage."
Whoa, dude, like, that's a business.
I felt so guilty. I gave him the money back. I was like, "Oh no, dude, I live in a different time zone. Even if I gave you advice and stuff, you won't see any change unless you just do it and get completely destroyed over and over again." So I gave him the money back. And then like I made 6 mil in the first day of the feast from Fenrir pub sales, so I was happy. I felt so guilty. Other people who stream, T-Pan and FaZe Medica. FaZe Medica is probably the best white mage. I know.
Even though they may not grab the attention, T-Pan is like, I look up to him so much in the PvP community because he knows everything that I want to know. Like if I have a question, I'm asking T-Pan. Like T-Pan is so knowledgeable when it comes to every single class, how classes interact with each other, how they synergize, how they're detrimental, and like what are the bad matchups, what are the good matchups. Like every single thing about this game, T-Pan has some type of knowledge for and information too. And watching Nikosa play Bard, watching Jammy wreck on Machinist. You know what I mean? Like FaZe Medica is absolutely out of fucking control. Like these are players that we know about in our community, but the large scale of people outside of this, like these are heroes. I'm not even fucking around. Like these are idols in the PvP fucking community, dude. And people deserve to know about them. They deserve to know about them. Hopefully we can get something set up in the like the comments of the vid for links for their channels or some shit.
Sure. If you want to send that stuff over to me, that'd be fine too.
I will. I'll put the effort into that 100%. All
right. So let's run through this real quick. I don't know if we did this completely, but Scholar, when they go in, what are their responsibilities in a match? It's always shield and lustrate? Or what are they doing? Are they just like, do I just hope there's not a monk and then run with it? Or what are they doing? Oh, you're muted.
We lost audio. Yo.
Wait, no, there you go.
I was typing. It was your fault because you make fun of me when I'm typing.
I would make, it's not my fault. I didn't hear the clickety-clack. I don't care. I'd rather hear the clickety-clack.
So I'm probably, I don't play Scholar that much. The best person to comment on Scholar would probably, the person I know is someone who, she's just started playing. She was part of the original team, which is Ayaro. Can't remember her last name. She's in my FC. 1 second. Let me not look like an asshole and forget her name.
You're already there.
I can't see it. She's not even in the thing. Well, yeah, she is. Ayaro Valeria. There we go.
Spell it out in the chat. Spell it out for.
I'll say it in Tiff. Oh, Tiff.
There we go.
She's in chat right now. She's in chat right now.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
I'm sorry, Tiff.
There we go.
I even spelled her name wrong.
Oh God, you looked it up. Back at it again with the spell check.
Oh, it's okay. All right, so basically, Scholar is something that's very difficult, and you don't want to comment on it too much because you're like...
I can do some comments on it. Like,
okay.
You need to know how to micromanage your pet. That's a huge source of healing, and it works while you're CC'd as well, which is... It was really good against Black Mages and General Burst when you're being stun-locked against a Paladin or something like that. But there's so many problems with just leaving your pet on. It runs to you, it heals, and then it does something, because while it's running it can't do anything. So you have to micromanage where it's going to go. You have to make sure it doesn't line of sight you. If you run away, it's going to automatically die if you get too far away, so you have to think about these things. You have some pretty good disengage things. You have Aura Blast, and you can combine that with Blizzard 2, so you Blizzard 2, as soon as that finishes casting you use Aura Blast. And then that's just an AoE fluid aura, and it binds people as they get knocked away. Other than that, it was really good with casters because it let them cast with the shields. Although right now it's not really needed. So they're just, again, it's just something like practice. But they're probably the most mechanical healers in the game.
Okay.
You have to know a lot about it, and you have to execute it very well for it to be on the level of like a good Astro.
All right, so an Astro,
because I hate Astros.
Before like the Feast came out, Astros were definitely overpowered. Everyone would play them, and nothing would happen. They just don't die. Whoever they're healing doesn't die. Is it the same way in the Feast?
No, then
they Astros
Astros were fine in level 50, and then Square Enix were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to increase their shields by 30%," and it's just like, why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that to me? And then they also gave him like extra healing from Sinistry. They buffed Sinistry ridiculous amounts, and then like Astro just ran around just like pressing Aspected Benefect. That's all it did, and then it would survive for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and then it got to LB.
Yeah, 4 people chased him in Seal Rock.
They're definitely the most consistent healer by far, because they can just, doesn't matter what you do, they can just keep healing. As soon as they come out of stun, they've got a 60-second 1,000 potency heal, which can crit. And you also have retrogradation, which is really good against, not only you can use it defensively to get rid of like miasma or anything like that, or stuns or sleeps if you got controlled too much. You can also use it offensively, get rid of raging strikes, get rid of blood for blood, full swing, attunement, things like that, and even Aetherflow stacks off Scholar or Summoner, and then you just laugh all the way to the bank.
All right. Then going into White Mage, do you guys want to go talk about White Mage a little bit? Joe, do you have any thoughts on White Mage?
Well, White Mage has like its clear distinction as White Mage is like the strongest healer as of right now. They've got a lot of benefits. There's a lot of things that they can do with Medica 2 stacked and Region stacked, plus Stone Skin, plus everything else that they've got. I'm really comfortable with the White Mage. I'm very comfortable getting healed by a White Mage. With all the OGCD heals that they have, like that's really cool to have. White Mage Paladin comp is very difficult to deal with. It's really nice to have on your team, but I play White Mage, not in the Feast, but I play White Mage in Steel Rock and things like that. And I really enjoy being able to play White Mage in like a very casual sense. Like I would never bring my White Mage into a Feast match right now, but that would be the class that I would play. It's also the only level 60 healer that I have, so I look forward to watching other people broadcast White Mage and learning stuff like that. I think between Astro and a White Mage is difficult to say like who I'd have a harder time burning down. I definitely say like as a Dragoon, as a melee DPS, it's a lot more annoying to burn a White Mage down to attunement and not kill them, and then burn them down to have them Benny, and popping all my CDs twice to do this, and then to have them covered by a Paladin, and then have their to have their attunement come back up again after the fact. Like to deal with that with a very skilled White Mage and a Paladin composition, it's really, really annoying. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves because I'll be ripping and killing, crushing, pop my buffs, pop everything, and I'll be like, okay, full thrust, here it comes, attune. Fuck! Like, oh shit! Oh, again. All right, internal release, impulse rush. Here we go. What the? Like again and again. It's very anticlimactic. I get really frustrated when it happens, but I have a lot easier time burning an Astro and a Scholar than I do a White Mage. So I think White Mage is would be the ideal class right now for healer.
Okay. White Mage is by far the most powerful healer, but if you mess up. Before the casting change, if you messed up, that was it. You just died, or you had to blow so many things to correct yourself. Right now, they got the biggest buff comparatively. I say that because beforehand, when you put Prism down, which is it's a small regen, it's an area of effect like Sacred Soil, but it reduces all physical damage to you by 40%, which is bigger than Testudo, but it doesn't affect magic damage.
It's dumb.
If you use that along with Presence of Mind and Equanimity, you could just free cast heal everything, and that was the way you could get all the pressure off you and basically reset the fight on your terms. But now you don't need Equanimity. If you wanted to free cast without being interrupted, you pop Presence of Mind, and then you just heal constantly. And then if you want to keep going, you pop Prism and keep going. And then you pop Equanimity and keep going. And if you want to keep going, your warrior pops Thrill of War or Testudo, and then you keep going. It's just crazy.
All right. Well, we got a few healer questions here that we can run through real quick. Basically, free 2BD1. I was asking prior, wouldn't it be better for scholars to have 3 separate stacks of Aetherflow as opposed to having one single buff of it?
No, because it would be too much of a nerf to Monk, I think. Then Monk would fall out of favor.
We talked about that directly.
We talked about that for hours. I think that conference went on for 3 hours when it was only supposed to be like 40 minutes, 60 minutes. We came to the conclusion of we protected the last stack of
I think that's what was talked about before I went out to raid.
Yeah. So the monks could strip 2 maximum, but that last one was always there. But there's still very many. There's a lot of ways you can get around that. You can have EOS has 2 buffs it can pop on you, and you can pop some buffs on yourself, including the shield, to try and protect those stacks. Or, as I said before, only use those stacks when you need to. You have so many ways of getting the stacks now anyway, as if you want to eat EOS, basically. If you want to cannibalize EOS.
Somebody was saying in chat, you need to sacrifice dissipation to sacrifice the scholar. And keep EOS alive.
It's basically just like, oh man, I'm losing. I best throw my pet under the bus. That was basically what it was.
Yeah.
But only using them when you need to, not when it's off cooldown just to get a bit of mana, because Skull's got enough mana anyway. Right now, they're fine. They've got mana draw. You've probably got a bard with you, and then after all that, you can use Aetherflow.
Okay. Next to the question, $100 bills. Would there be a situation in which bursting the healer is preferable to melee, assuming the range gets a defense buff?
Yeah, when it's a scholar.
When it's a scholar.
When it's a scholar, dude.
If it's an Astro, have they use either Attunement or have they use Purify, and then you just go straight on them. Astro has, unless the Astro's going healing and they have the defense buff and they have their regions already set up, you're not going to get much resistance against them anyway. But at the same time, you can also do the same thing against any of the Astro's teammates and have the Astro slap locked or stun locked.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Go ahead.
Pretty much so. If they used a Purify, or if it's a white mage, if they've already used a Benediction or an Attune, it's either do I want to burst? Do I want to use a burst to maybe kill him, or to use up a Benediction or a Prism or an Attune? Which, if the answer is yes, that's better than the alternative, and your healer's okay with giving the other DPS the run around while you do that, then yeah, go for it.
All right.
It all comes down to your composition and how you want and what they're doing, what their buffs are.
That's the main thing, is like it's all situational. The biggest thing to understand is even if I burst and if we burst together, there's a way for a healer to stop the damage from coming in, and that's Attunement. And then what else on their team is going to be able to stop that damage from coming in? Once all those things are gone, and if you're paying very close attention to the other players' buffs and things like that, who's been using Purifies and how many have gone out, whatever, then you know you can safely burn somebody. Like I sometimes don't pay enough attention, and see if you know this because I'm the man at waking people up. But if I'm paying very close attention, I'll know when Attunement went out, when Cover goes out, and when Benny goes out on a white mage, and I know after that when I get my buffs, he's fucking dead, and that's it. I'll blow everything. I will blow first combo, second combo, fourth combo, Gear Skogul, fucking all my jumps fully buffed with crit maxed out, and you're dead. You know, like you're gonna fucking die at that point. But if I'm burning all that stuff and I know I'm not paying attention, I could be using it completely frivolously, or I could be using it for nothing, and that would waste the whole point of me having high damage or high damage output. So it is very situational, but you gotta. That's what I love about the Feast, is that there's more to it than just knowing what the rotation I need to do max damage is. It's when to do it and who to do it on to be most effective.
Okay, and this is actually a good follow-up question then. Soupy Groupie. So I've been hearing certain situations there are completely unhealable. The burst damage is just way too much. There's no way that they're going to live. For example, if you leave like a Black Mage or a Machinist alone, something like that, what do they do as a healer in those kind of situations?
You need to blow everything you need to do to keep them alive, unless maybe you're low on coins anyway, and you're not going to lose right then and there. Maybe it's better to save your cooldowns and go for a better attack later on, when they don't have burst but you do. Things like that. Control is a good alternative if you're white mage. Should you be trying to power heal someone through, which white mage isn't the best stat, because it takes a while to get those cures through unless you have a Swifty ready, but you don't really want to waste a Swifty on a heal when you can have the regens doing it for you. Mm-hmm. Should you be binding people instead to stop the burst and allowing whoever's getting burst to run away? If you're being burst, do you need to line of sight the bard? Do you need to bind a dragoon? If he's limit breaking you, you need to line of sight him as fast as possible, or sleep him. But he's probably going to have Fetalord up. Generally things like that. There are a lot of ways to do it. If the black mage if it's a team game and their black mage is free casting, then you need to look at, okay, what can we do better as a team? If it's solo queue, you just cry, and then you just queue up again and hope that black mage goes on your team, and then the enemy team doesn't fight him. Things like that.
Yeah, it's having a contingency and knowing how to. If it can't be stopped, then what do you do next? Like that's like for me. Like if I know somebody's getting wrecked on my team, I'm immediately dropping in chat, fall the fuck back out, back out. Back out, get that person their buffs up, avoid all damage the best way you possibly can. If you have a white mage on your team, you've got a Benny, so you know as close as possible down to unhealable, drop a Benny on him. If you have a paladin on your team, a paladin can cover, but you know if they cover somebody else on your team, that means the healer is going to be exposed later on when you need to save them. So if a healer dies and if somebody's getting shot by a healer, or if somebody's targeting the healer is the biggest loss you can possibly have on your team, because that means everyone has a finite amount of HP outside of their recuperates, outside of bloodbath, outside of second winds, outside of inner beast, outside of everything else that can heal them later on in the fight, depending on what class you're fighting up against. So if you burst a healer and you can quickly burst a melee and quickly burst a range, like if you're with a solid team, like if I go in with anybody that knows how to do a medium amount of damage and I kill the healer, I'm killing their melee and I'm killing their ranged right there if I can hit them with my stuns and I don't stun the healer with them, which means there's only one player left on the team that we need to kill to win. So it doesn't just become like one situation. It becomes like, how am I going to strategically win this match based off of the comp that we have? So knowing that if you're getting unhealable damage on your healer and it's a white mage, like if you drop your, what is the ranged damage one?
Prism.
Yeah, if you drop Prism plus Regen plus Medica plus I found out this the hard way. I always find out lessons learned the hard way. But I always would go in on a white mage and I'd be fully buffed and ripping and I would never get below 50% HP, and I'd be like, why the hell am I not? I'm killing this guy. Like, I'm fucking killing him, dude. What's going on? And I realized that's the increased
green goop.
Yeah,
the saving green goop.
I was like, he's standing in this thing. He's always standing in this thing, and when he's standing in there, I can't kill him. So like that would be the wrong time to burst for me. But if it is, if you know it's unhealable, like for example, like there is a strategy where like I'll go in and die over and over and over again, and I'll use that to our advantage. Like I'll put myself in situations where I know they're going to be targeting me, and then we can set up a ranged LB. We can set up lots of different stuff. If I know if I've died twice and I'm only dropping 7 medals over and over and over again, like it doesn't matter if I die again. So if I'm the focus of their attack, it's not that big of a deal. You know, I can put myself in more crazy positions. If I have a healer that's not the best and I'm dying, if I died twice and nobody else on my team has died, it doesn't really matter if I die again. So I can take that damage, you know?
Another thing about the unhealable damage is generally, it's not, although this is in team queues, not solo queue, is generally you will put yourself in a situation where it's unhealable, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Unless they're bursting or something like that and you get slept or stunned at the worst possible time, then of course that's unhealable. You can't really do much against that. But say if you blow a lot of stuff and you win the first fight and you keep pushing that pressure, you keep the pressure up and you keep pushing, but you don't tell your team, I've already used Benediction, I've already used Prism, how am I gonna heal against this? Mm-hmm. You shouldn't go in. You don't have the tools to go in. They're gonna turn around. They have a little bit of a buff at the start with the 10-second invulnerability. Yep. And they're going to be doing damage, and they're going to realize, oh man, my mana's quite low. I don't have any ways to heal, even with Medica and regens up. Like, I don't have enough mitigation against these guys. We should have backed off before. We should have waited.
Spot on.
Mana back. Yeah, that's a big thing. So yeah, you need to know. Communication's a big thing anyway. It always will be, and that's a problem with solo queue. That's just how it's going to be in solo queue. You need to know. Maybe even do a macro run away.
Yeah.
With lots of bells and dun, 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 dun,
yeah.
dun, dun, dun.
Danger bongos. Danger bongos.
Danger bongos.
I love danger bongos, dude. The other team can only take what you give them. That's like war. That's like battle 101. Like they can only take from you what you allow them to take, period. So if you like Steve said, if you know you've got nothing, let your team know you've got nothing and just fall back. You don't have to keep pressing attack. Like there's a strategy where you never leave your own side. Like you never leave your own little cubby of the first match, like waiting for a team to come and press you and fall into a trap. You know, waiting for culling time to come up and everything like that. Like there's a very laid back defensive strategy that is that way. And then there's another, like if you keep pressing no matter what, and you've got nothing to back it up, you're going to get fucked, man.
Okay. So we talked a lot about the jobs and classes, and we might have to cut a couple questions out just to make sure we're making okay time here.
All good, dude. I'm down for going over if you. I'm free till 9 o'clock, so.
Yeah.
4-day weekend. I'm gonna be up until like 6 today playing
Oh, nice.
Battlefield Gothic.
Yeah.
boy.
All right. But first, since we talked about all these jobs and different classes and everything else, mixing them together is also important, making sure everything meshes really well. What out there is the best comp for someone to go out there? If you go out there and you see this comp, you're like, well, they definitely have one up on us because they're in this comp. Is there one out there like that, or is that still getting figured out?
There is the big damage comp, which was the original. It's the Behemoth Burst comp, which is the name is. It started in Behemoth. In Wolves Den, which was just you had Bard, you had Dragoon, and then you had it used to be Marauder, but now it has to be Warrior.
I wish it was still Marauder. Dude.
And it was basically the healer is you basically tell the healer he's shit out of luck, he's on his own. We're just gonna go and rape face, and now it's Machinist Dragoon.
Yep.
It can be Warrior, but like Paladin's got okay damage as long as it's got the debuff on. Machinist lets you do that.
It really doesn't matter outside of Machinist and Dragoon.
Oh, really?
And your win condition is you get the healer low, he forces a tune or something like that, and then you hard swap instantly to the enemy ranged, and you blow him up. And from that, either the healer revives the other dude, at which point the other dude's going to try and attack before he gets healed up, and then you blow him up again, and then you just keep the pressure on and keep the pressure on because Burst is very, very. It's probably the meta especially in America. Even with Black Mage's buffs, I think Burst is still ridiculous. I think that's the best at the moment. But that's not to say it's the best. There are counters to it.
Right. What would you do to counter that comp? What's the
Black Mage? I go Black Mage.
Yeah, you got to control it.
I'd be Black Mage. I'd be this massive dude in a massive hat sleeping people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what else would you add to your comp besides Black Mage though? Was there like
Paladin.
a melee? Paladin? Okay, Paladin.
Paladin. You could swap out White Mage because Machinist Dragoon is physical. You could swap out for White Mage if you're in Astro. Have that prison down. Make sure you've got Testudo up before, like you. How to explain this? So like everyone focus targets a different person. Like one focuses the Warrior, one focuses the Dragoon, one focuses the Machinist. When they start buffing up for a burst, pop Testudo, pop Prism, get it down so they can't. Their damage is reduced, and that would be a good way to combat it. Because if you can survive, if you can survive it, maybe losing one person, but if they lose one person at the same time, and you still have tools against them, you're ahead. You may not be ahead in coins, but you can keep the pressure up, and at that point, they don't have much of a response to what you do.
Okay.
At the end of the day, like you have to understand, it's not necessarily. The cool thing about the medal system is that it can take away the difference in skill between teams because it only matters at the last second of time if you can't kill all four people. So if you know you can stop them or only one person dies, like Steve said, like all I need to do is set up a position where the healer does not have an attunement and I can stun them once and limit break them. And then once that happens, then we need to kill one more person or kill their tank, and that's where that mental game of the feast comes in, which is awesome. Like, it's really, really fun. That's what I love. Like my first 6 matches, 4v4 team were with 2 people, Crimson, who's in chat right now, and Samus, the Evolved male, who's never played PvP before in his life. He played 1 match in his life, and we ended up winning 6 matches in a row just because we used our heads and because we were communicating. Like it was a really, really fun thing. But it doesn't necessarily mean even if you have the most skill and the most time, you can't lose. Like that the highlight from the beginning of the stream, like that match, they were kicking our ass, and it was actually back and forth the whole match, but. I've gone in positions where we've been losing the entire time and we've come back in the last X amount of seconds and you can still win. So,
okay, awesome. Let's jump into some Reddit questions here while we have a chance. There's a few posts. There are some other points that we talked about in the show that were inspired by questions from the Reddit post that we put out. But there's 3 posts on there that were pretty big posts and had lots of questions about it. I figured we can go through some of these questions here. And so I'm going to read the first one, which is from Demon Souls. And I'm just going to read the whole thing, and we can kind of go over it in different points here. Basically, he said, I'd like them to speak about gearing up in PvP. There are a lot of new people that don't quite get how the whole level sync works and how can you try to max out secondaries to improve your build? How do they know what caps are at 50? What's the best secondaries for their job? Does any of that even really matter? And that's the first part of the question. You guys want to respond to that real quick?
I guess I'll do that because I get so annoyed when I get so many people on Reddit saying no, morale doesn't work, ignore it. And it's like morale does work. so the way the caps work is for the main stats, which is vitality, strength. Apologies if the kettle going on in the background. Dexterity, piety, I think, intelligence, things like that. Those will always be capped if you have any I-150 item. If it's crafted, it has to be high quality, of course. But other than that, it will cap. Then, generally, everything has two secondary skills. One will cap and one will not. The best way to get both of them to cap is just either have any level 60 PvP gear with morale. That will always cap. Or have at least I-190. And they will generally, 99.9% of the time, they will cap all secondaries and primaries. In terms of what you want to use, I'd say skill speed is trash and everything else is amazing.
Yeah.
Like I'll be a bit specific for Black Mage. Like I went into, you can go crit det. I wouldn't go det because the scaling isn't really that good anymore, and spell speed helps you actually make the plays and actually get things off. For Astro and White Mage, you need piety because you're going to be keeping that pressure up constantly, and you're going to need as much help you can get. Because especially Astro, which is probably the worst mana wise, its costs are high and its efficiency through mana and its heals are very quite low after the nerfs, even before nerfs. Mm-hmm. I would go crit piety on Astro to get the crit shields. Those are really good. And on White Mage, you could probably go crit again. I would go spell speed. And in Scholar, I guess you would just go crit det. I don't think you need the piety, but not many people play Scholar, so.
No. Okay, so let's go into this next one. I'm going to direct this towards Joe here, and I'm going to read this paragraph out here.
Shoot.
Also, I'd like to hear their view on how the current rating system works, especially in 4v4 solo queue. What I'm seeing right now is that on my data center, there's a huge gap with nothing in between. Either you are a phenomenal player that can carry most parties, and you are able to gain some ranks, or you are decent, good, and stay forever in the bronze limbo. There's no in between. After a few weeks, I see people in bronze that don't really deserve to be there, but they're unable to go any further because either they're not skilled enough to carry a bad party to win solo. I think that was just one statement, not either or. Okay. Yeah. And is there anything SE can do to make the system less punishing for those players that are actually decent and good, just not phenomenal?
That's actually directly what we were talking about right before we went live today. The system is flawed. The system is not perfect right now. And a lot of the feedback that I hear from skilled players, a lot of feedback I hear from beginners is, I'm stuck in bronze and this system doesn't work and blah, 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 X complaint, X complaint, X complaint. And, we don't hear a lot of feedback towards, hey, what if we did this, or what would a possible solution be? I'm stuck in bronze right now. And, day 1 p.m., after playing for 8 hours straight, I was 770 something. And I started losing matches when people got out of school. And I have never been able to get out of bronze. I don't queue in the early AM. I network in the morning. I work out in the morning now. So the early morning AM queues apparently is a very, very strong PvP community. EST AM. So wherever that is, wherever you are in the world, there seem to be more intelligent players playing in that time slot in the day. I don't know what a possible solution would be, but there is a large disparity between somebody who's coming in for the first time and somebody who's been very skilled in this community. And what ends up happening right now with the algorithm is that the way that it just ends up happening, and Jammy can attest to this when he was ranking up, bro, and getting his qualifiers, like you'd end up going for your qualifiers and get 3 brand new motherfuckers on your team to have everything evened out. And it's like, how the hell does that make any sense where you're going to have somebody who's going for the most important win of their current moment in PvP get paired up with 3 complete noobs? Like, how does that happen? How does that happen?
The reason how it works is it's basically the same as the original Wolves Den matchmaking. It was it basically tried to have the average rank, or in this team, average rating of each team has to be the same. So if you have a high rating, you've got a very high chance of being matched with people with very low or zero ratings. That's just how it is. It's not going off. It should be. You are matched with people near your rating, not the average of the teams, because that means if someone got to platinum or a diamond, there's a warrior. I think Nex is almost platinum now. There's also a warrior who's like halfway to diamond, because they just play a carry job, and they can, if they just get more kills than the other people, and then maybe LB at the end, they have a good chance of carrying their team, which is quite evident. They are very, very, very likely to be matched with unranked people versus silvers. Kind of high bronze to low silvers. It's just a flaw in the matchmaking, which we could have told them if they told us how it was going to work beforehand.
Yeah.
Right. Another way. Go on.
That's one of the tough things right now is we as a PvP community have been able to, and this comes from everybody when it comes to the forums, when it comes to PvPreborn.com, FFXIV, PvP, any of the outlets that we have as a community to speak, Twitter, about PvP. They're very open to receiving our feedback, but they don't give us as much information as like, how does it work from your end so we can frame around it? You know what I mean? Like one of the things that I'm trying to accomplish is how are they setting up the scaling, and how can we like learn more about what they think about so we can change based off of it. You know what I mean? Like that's the main thing I think that's very pertinent information for us to have as a PvP community. Like if it's not necessarily like exactly how the algorithm is set up or whatever it is, but like what information can you give us to help us use your system more effectively if you're not planning on changing the system yourself. So,
yeah. Okay. My advice, like they're going to change it. They said they were going to change it in the live letter recently. So we need to see how they're going to do that. My idea would be an ELO rating system, basically like chess, which your rating goes up and down based on the average or the general rating. There's like coughs going on in one ear and there's music going on in the other ear. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
And so if you get matched with a really high team and you're really low, you won't lose so much rating if you lose, but you'll gain a lot
if you win.
Oh, you totally muted yourself there, but it's all right.
Yeah.
We got
I'm just waiting for the coughing to stop. I'll give everyone else a cold.
Yeah.
He's going to cough again.
That's okay.
So if you got matched against a high rating team, if you lost, you don't lose that much. But if you won, you got a lot more. I don't want to bore people with the maths, but it's very simple to put in. The only problem is the higher rating you go, the worse your queues will be, which is quite a sizable trade-off. Right. So we need to decide if that's worth it or not. But that would be one of the most ideal matchmaking systems. And they need to add it to team, because right now they don't actually have any matchmaking for teams. It just puts you against any other team, which is stupid.
Which is really, 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 really rough if T-Pan is fucking queuing, dude. God damn. Oh my god. There are certain teams that like I know the comps of because they're static. So I know the second we get it, it's going to be nothing but practice for me. It's going to be nothing but like, how do I frame my mind around playing it like the unstoppable team? You know what I mean? Like, what can I learn from them? That's the only thing I can do.
The rating right now is really harsh. Even in bronze, it's harsh. Like we can see that. But in teams, like because of my time zone, I've done 250 matches. I'm almost diamond now. And T-Pan's rocking like 12,000 rating or something ridiculous because he plays all the time. The most annoying for me is I want really good fights, but I also want to get to diamond.
Correct.
And when you're platinum and you're with a diamond team, every win is only worth 10 points, and every loss is always losing 40 points. So if you get really good fights, like a good example is an Elysian team, which is Mal Reynolds, Chea, Nepu and Angelic Assassin. They're a really fun team to play against, and the fights are always tooth and nail right to the end. And we can beat them 5 times, and then we lose 1, and then it basically resets
square one
for that type of thing. And it puts me
It's an hour of your life.
It's quite a petty thing to think about, but it's one of the goals I set to get to Diamond before Season 1. And when that happens, it just frustrates me so much to the point where I don't want to fight them, but I do because I don't want to stomp people constantly. I don't want to stomp new teams because it's not helping them and it's not helping me.
Okay. So there's a couple other questions that he had in his post there, but we're going to ask them later on, or we've already covered them throughout the show, so I'm going to skip past those real quick, and we're going to go to the next one from Brayflox Don't Stop.
Nice name.
Yeah. It's
like a Final Fantasy rapper, dude.
Yeah. Nice.
We don't give no flocks. My bad.
This goes good. So the question, first one is it okay to LOS the healer if you're LOSing the enemy DPS?
Depends on the comp, but generally no, because if they have any control, then you're forcing either the healer has to ignore you, or you're forcing the healer out of position, which could kill the healer. So generally no, especially not in solo queue. Just if you're if you're a healer in solo queue, you have to make sure you don't LOS people because they're going to do it anyway. Which is you just have to play around that, but I wouldn't LOS them.
That's another point I completely forgot. I spaced out about before about the unhealable bursts and things like that. That's positioning on the stage and like LOSing and running around the pillars is something that a healer can do and a black mage can do, a summoner can do very effectively to avoid damage. If I'm bursting somebody and they run around the corner of one of those curved sections, I can't hit him with a move. So this is a big shout out to fucking Luluke, my dog Luluke. He was a king at this in Wolves Den, and the Fold was what you currently call it. He would, as a scholar, he would just bob and weave around the corner. And as a melee DPS, you'd have to chase him back and forth, but you couldn't get hits off of him because he would always line of sight you if you wanted to follow him to get your next move. It's something that's really, really, really hard to deal with that immediately stops the effectiveness of a melee DPS. Yeah. So, if you play your class really well and you know how to do that, that's another thing that can stop unavoidable damage or unhealable damage.
A better example, a better alternative to line of sighting is wall dancing. So you're against, so say like that. So say here's a wall and you're being chased, just do this. Just do that. And then they're going to do the same thing and then eventually just go somewhere else, then come back and they'll instinctively go back round. And then you're just reducing damage that way. Another example is Tiff's in chat, Aero, the scholar. Eos can heal through walls. Eos has like super Batman X-ray vision and can heal through walls. You can't line of sight in Eos. So maybe Scholar's the solo queue savior. Maybe I should level Scholar. I probably won't though.
All right.
It's the hero Eorzio's been looking for. Eos.
Going off healers some more, and a lot of these questions are in regards to healers. I think Brayflox is a healer. Should I, as a healer, use as much mana and CDs as needed to keep people alive for the initial burst phase, or is it acceptable to have a def if I avoid going out of mana? Around 5 to 6 minutes into the fight, which generally happens if you're in some pretty intense.
I would say blow everything you can just to win the first bout. And if you are low on mana, you have 3. Each class has 3 ways to restore mana. You've got Scholar doesn't. Come to think of it, but you all have mana draw. Scholar has that word Aetherflow stacks.
Right.
White Mage and Astro have their Shroud and Luminous Aether, and then you can also use a size and you can try and pull a Ewa card. But if you realize you've got low mana, if you're not with a Bard or something, just consider pulling back and keeping the momentum. Don't go with the momentum. Just come back and get your mana back, and then Stone Skin up, and then get ready to go again.
Yeah. Your friend's typing a book behind you, I can tell.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He's a book. Yeah, no, it's fine.
You get him, Frosty.
But Joe, I'm going to ask you this question real quick. So, as I'm just going to say, as a Dragoon too, when should defs be blamed on a healer? I get a lot of heat for matches, but I feel a lot of people's defs come from overextending, LOSing, or failure to control the enemy casters. Black Mage especially. Do you feel like every def should be blamed on healers, or do the DPS and everyone else have a responsibility to make sure that healers can heal you?
No, not every death needs to be blamed on a healer.
Some do.
These are the ones that I'll talk about directly. Like, as a healer, your job is to keep the amount of damage that's going out underneath the amount of heals that you do, and not put yourself in a position where you can't heal your team and not get stopped from healing. So the deaths that I blame on a healer are if I am in the line of sight within 15 yalms of my healer, taking damage, also prepping my healer, explaining that because I have the offensive buff, I'm going to be taking a lot of damage with all of my heals already popped on my end, and getting bursted. If my healer can't heal me through that, that's either a lack of knowledge to how to heal me, or a lack of ability to do the things that they need to do. Or like the biggest blames that I do are like, if a healer gets slept and stays slept
and doesn't call for purify or use
without
purify.
purifying or calling for purify, and then says, I was asleep, I can't heal you, I go nuts. Because purify is one of the coolest abilities in PvP. Not only can you don't have to use it on you. It's not just singular. I don't just use purify on myself. I can put it on anybody on my team. It's a 25 yalm radius.
Yeah.
25 yalms away from me. So there's
30,
4.
not 30.
30. There's 4 of them per match. There's no excuse. I've got one. I pay attention to my healer when my healer has dots. When my healer has full dots and they've already used their purify, immediately. My healer gets slept, immediately. I'm watching it and I'm blowing it off on them. And then there's a tank and a range that has a purify. So it's like, there's zero excuse for that. If I'm within 15 yalms, within line of sight, and I'm going in and I'm getting targeted and I've explained to my healer, you need to keep regen and medic on me, you need to watch for lustrates, you need to keep me shielded, you need to keep regen on me, please keep me healed, I'm going to be taking damage, and they do not have the ability to stop that from happening, and then like I'll come off, like I will stop going in and like not take that full amount of damage. Like it's the classic, heal me, heal me, heal me, heal me, the jumping towards the fucking healer, like I'm right here, dude. You know, especially with a white mage that like has a Benny, even though I don't want it. I guess you'd want to Benny a DPS, but like it's like one of the most annoying things in the world to be going in with an offensive buff and ripping on somebody and just about to fucking kill them and to not get a heal. It's extremely frustrating. I had one match Thursday night before, right after raid, when I was super pissed because we got down to fucking 17% on A6. And I was like, dude, it was my fault that we wiped. I was like, I gotta fucking take some shit out on PvP. I was up against the team and I burst their healer down to this much, and no one on my team, I was like spamming danger bongos on. I don't use danger bongos, but spamming, target the fucking healer, kill him, kill him, kill him. I got no backup. I got the healer down to this. I switched to the ranged DPS who was bursting us, and I got the ranged DPS down to this much, and then I died. And no one was killed on the other team. And I was like, what the fuck? What am I doing here, guys? Like, what's the fucking point of me playing hard right now if we can't work as a team? You know what I mean? Like that's the only time that I will blame a fucking healer. And I'll let a healer know. I'll be like, yo, the beginning of the match, I'll set it up. If I'm playing with a white mage, if I'm playing with a scholar, if I'm playing with an astro, I'll explain how I want to get healed. I will say it to him. I was like, yo, I'm going to need a stone skin. I'm going to need a shield. I'm going to need you to blow this when I get to around half HP. I'll explain to a white mage to keep up all of my ticks, and I'll stay within the prism if you can drop it near me or drop it near you, whatever it is. Like, I'll let people know, like, I'm going to need you to add low. I'm going to need a stone skin. I'm going to need lustrates when I get blown. Like seriously, like, this is exactly how I want it to happen. And if it can't be done, like, it's frustrating, but you know, I'll really only ever go ham on a healer because I know healing is the hardest job in PvP. I'll only ever go ham on a healer when I know it's just ignorance, like pure ignorance of being able to play the class. And that's if you're sleeping and you're just sitting there and you know you've got to fucking purify. And it's like, well, bro, wake yourself up, dude. Like, come on, like, know how to play the game, dude.
Yeah. Although if you get like slept or maybe try disastered, like before the fight even starts, like someone will run along and just use Nightwing just to sleep you straight away. Don't purify that. Just wait it out. If they come to it, because if they don't do anything off that, then they're not only have they lost a quite a very powerful
Absolutely.
cooldown, you're now on resistance to sleep, which means you only need one purified to get rid of the second sleep, because the third one, unless
it's not gonna do anything anyway.
It's 3 seconds, but you can generally let that time out as long as your team is moderately healthy.
Okay. I'm going to skip towards Silver Fox Flame here for the next couple of questions. And again, it's more healer stuff here. What can healers do to deal with insane amount of damage, of burst damage, that comes from high skill damage dealers, warrior included? And how would you deal with a warrior going full burst with home gang on a healer while 2 DPS and the other team go after your melee and ranged?
Purify and run.
If you're a white mage and you think the warrior is going to home gang you, spam the hell out of Fluid Aura, and hopefully he'll home gang you at the same time because they have the same range, and then he'll be stuck ages away from you, and then he can free cast. Home gang isn't nearly as powerful as it used to be because of the casting change. Blowing one of your even a tune can be worth if you know they're going to burst you. Watch the Machinist, watch the Dragoon, watch the Warrior. If they pop Raging Strikes, and if they have attack buff, you need to respond to that. Maybe not Purify on things like Full Swing. You don't really want to Purify that unless you know you're going to die if it's on you. But you need to either control or preempt the damage coming towards you. Trying to heal through it is just not going to work if the team knows what they're doing. You can't expect to just try and brute force your way through the heals unless you have a plan.
Okay. Joe, I'm going to ask you this one. Do you feel as though the vulnerability up for metals might be a little too much for non-tank party members?
No. It's an added element of strategy, and that's what it is. It's just something that you need to communicate, and it's actually something that you can use to your advantage. I never thought along the lines of this until I got 2 matches with T-Pan one morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning after PvP and all night, and it was awesome just to go in a little bit of 4v4. Like, that's what I look for more than anything else in this game, is being able to play with like incredibly skilled players so that I can increase my ability and my knowledge. T-Pan as a healer will pick up medals to force the other team to target him to control the way that they're playing the game.
Go on.
It's so sick, dude. It's next level strats, bro. It's so crazy. It's amazing, because the second you say you've got a fucking healer that's metals, it's like, oh, attack the healer, attack the healer, attack the healer. And then you've got a contingency plan that's going to stop them from killing you. You're controlling them for 30 seconds to a minute, and you're burning the clock. You know, it's an absolutely amazing strat.
And at the same time, while you're doing that, you're taking pressure off your ranged, which if it's a black mage, you gain way more control, and you start to gain the damage from the black mage. Everything else, summoners, not that in favor now, but that can still pull off its win condition. You could probably force them, if they're fighting you as a healer, you just bring them towards the enemy healer, and then the summoner can just like Godbane burst. 3 kills. It's crazy.
Godbane, I love that.
All right, so let's get on to one more question from them. Are there any arena nuances you think a lot of people don't know about that are worth mentioning? Helping LOS areas, hurtful LOS areas, etc.
The base is a big thing people don't utilize. If you're winning by a good amount of medals and it's about to get to the end, run back to your base. Get mana, get your boxes. People don't get the... don't always go back for the defense and attack boxes.
Second set of defense and attack.
If you want to be really bad mana, where the boxes spawn, there's ladders going down to the underwater areas. You can just hide behind there and people won't find you. It's the most annoying thing ever. But some people don't know it's there, and then they go past you and you run past them and win.
Okay.
Doing the wall dancing again, and then also knowing. A big thing is knowing when just to get a feel for when the boxes are going to spawn. Okay.
So I'm going to shotgun some of these viewer questions here that we had. I'm going to do a couple gear questions that came in first. Percora, currently the morale stat and PvP materia don't do anything. Do you have any opinions on how morale and PvP materia could be re-implemented, or whether they should be removed from the game completely.
I don't know what they're trying to do with them, but back when this is the old days. This is a year and a half ago, maybe. When
the good old days.
When PvP, back when morale actually gave you like up to 31.5% extra attack versus new players. That was so unfair.
So much fun. It's so much fun, dude.
PvP material was pretty broken, but at the same time, sleep was 30 seconds back then, and stun was 6 seconds. It doesn't look like much. It's like 2 resistance, which is 2% reduction in. Sorry about the timing. A 2% reduction in the time of the CC, but it rounds to the nearest second. So 1 materia reduces any stun by 1 second. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Will they bring it back? If materia can be, you can only have 2 of the same materia right now. So 2 on the same piece. So if they made it so you can't advance meld PvP materia, and then maybe nerfed the materia or made them free. Maybe that could be an extra thing. It's I don't think they will.
Okay.
What I would like to see, something along these lines, is I want to see some type of reward system for 4v4 with a team battle, and maybe some type of like tournament style gameplay, where it's like incredibly skilled players, like you're looking for like the best of the best in the world, and adding another element along the lines of like very specific PvP, like being able to use PvP gear, blah, 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 like all this type of stuff, and have there be a really elite reward from it. You know what I mean? For there to be like legitimately the highest skill level instance in the game, to have it drop literally nothing, like except for a ranking, a diamond ranking, to have the most skilled version of this game give you nothing. I think that's kind of a wasted element. Like I think there'd be a lot more players interested in getting involved in PvP if they were able to play with their friends, 3 other people that they could go in with, and then they could get something out of it outside of the mount. You know what I mean? Like if you could get some sick gear from it, if you could get a trophy from it, if you could get a wall mount or something for your house. You know what I mean? Like something that said you were the fucking bomb. I think that would be awesome. But have it be different from the normal version. I know for me, having my snake's leash gear and just beasting people, like literally fucking beasting people, letting them know. And you saw somebody in that gear, it meant something in PvP.
It was,
when
you're going in Warlord gear, level 70, and you see people in I-100 gear, which has, back then it was 320 morale versus your 170. It's like a 25%, you deal 25% less damage to them, and they deal 25% damage more to you. And it's just like, This was back there when none of the PvP skills were automatically unlocked. You had to buy them. Achievement cost, I think it was 7 points, and you had to get that. Otherwise, you can just bend over and kiss your ass goodbye at the start of every match.
Oh my god, it was another.
Those were dark days.
Those were the dark ages.
Okay, so one more gear question here. Free to BD1. Also, is 205 PvP gear any real use? I feel it's no different from my customized HQ 220 gear.
If you want the stats from them, then that's what they're useful for. Outside of that, no, they didn't do anything.
It's to a certain point, it's just you're going for the secondary stats, and if it has the same secondary stats, as long as it's above eye level 190, it doesn't matter unless you want glamour, and you can glamour it to anything anyway. So it's the only thing that PvP gear is used for legit is the stat allocation that you're looking for. If it has the specific maximum secondary stats that you're looking for, use it. Other than that, you can use anything else you want.
Okay. And we're going to go through a couple more questions here. We kind of hit on these a little bit, so we can just answer them real quick if you want to, too. Hector Savary, I'm just going to say Hector guy. Does slow play a role in PvP, or is it useless? I think we already confirmed it. It's like ridiculously powerful.
Hell yeah, dude!
It's not ridiculously powerful, but it's a really good extra thing to have. And it slows down the mainly the healer right now. It's probably the most powerful on White Mage and Astro, and I guess Scholar, but Scholar it doesn't exist right now.
I drop it on a healer and I drop it on a summoner if they have an offensive buff off the rip. That's the first thing I do. And then if it's a ranged casting class, I will drop skewer. I'll drop a buffed skewer on whoever it is, and then I'll go start DPSing whoever I'm doing. That's the only thing that I do before opening my burst. It's the only GCDs that I'll allocate to anything outside of damage is dropping feint if I want to, which is usually always, and doing my best to do more damage in that first 20 seconds. It's the only thing that was discussed at the conference, at the PvP conference, that would have been nerfable for Dragoon. And we talked about it going from a 20-second initial debuff to 12 seconds, and having it basically reduce the first, length of time. But I don't think I don't like nerfing Dragoon, so I talked about
it's because you play Dragoon.
Yeah. But the big thing is it's when you think about it, which we didn't talk about, was Monk and Bard would have a 12-second already. You know what I mean? It's because they have enhanced feint, because Dragoon has enhanced feint because it's its class's skill. You know what I mean? So I still think it should be 20 seconds.
Okay.
Just saying.
Goofy Bra here has another question here for you. This is a question for Joe. Do stat weights ever change? I.e., does getting more skill speed for more attacks more preferred than maxing crit and det? So I'm guessing more along the lines of, do stat weights, when they change in the game, have you ever had to say, oh, well, skill speed's the thing to go now? Has it always been exactly the same?
No, when Heaven's Ward hit, det was really good early on, where every class would go crit det, except, and then this was before Astro, so there was no need for piety either. And then after the det nerf was so large, and crit and spell speed got buffed really well, in that spell speed now affects regens, dots, things like that, and crit got even more powerful than it was before. So then it became crit spell speed for casters, and then still crit det for DPS. I don't think anyone really uses skill speed, because you don't need to. If you're bursting, you generally...
Okay. And thank you. I think Goofy appreciates Joe's answer on that one very much. I can't hear you, Joe.
Your mic's dead, Joe.
Your mic's dead. It's gone.
I didn't want to hear anybody hear me vaping.
Oh, okay.
I want to trigger the bots again.
Yeah,
dude.
okay.
So Fair scared. The only thing I would say to that is I fucked around a lot in Seal Rock with the crit skill speed build, and I talk about it with Jamie a lot, because we that was like one of the cool conversations I had with Jamie when I came to Gilgamesh was, what's the difference between the two? Do I want to do crit skill speed or do I want to do crit det? And for the majority of it is, if a healer's got 25% of their HP left, and I'm fully buffed, and I hit a fully buffed, life surged, full thrust, and it's not as strong as possible, healer can survive. I want my hits to be the largest possible chunks of their HP to hopefully get the kill that's going to give me my next battle high or my next battle fever. The only thing that was debatable was, once I have battle fever, would it then be more beneficial for me to hit faster because my moves are already so strong? And that was what the argument I had was what happens when my character is already super strong? Wouldn't it be better to have faster hitting moves to do more damage? And the answer was no, because I'm not going to get to battle fever faster if I have weaker hits. So it's always, as a Dragoon, always you want the heaviest hitting, highest crit, highest det comp build possible, period.
Yeah.
Sorry, Saviv, I wanted to make fun of you just real quick, because like at the very beginning it was like, question for Joe, and Saviv was like, I got this. I'm going to tell you.
The cool fuck that. The cool thing about it is, hold up one second. The cool thing about it is, like, being able to like I play Dragoon very specifically, and Steve and T-Pan and a lot of the other guys in the Rum Racing fan club, like, they have a lot more knowledge outside of my linear knowledge of Dragoon. And like, I'm not the fucking best Dragoon. I've talked to you about this on the show before. Like, I'm never gonna say I'm the fucking best. I'm never gonna put myself in that boat, because there's 100 guys, 107. I've been counting. No, there's a lot of guys out there that play the class better than me. But Steve's like, his knowledge of this game is so above and beyond a general knowledge that like he can talk on everything like way more eloquently, way more knowledgeably than I can. So like I have he can let him go, dude. Let him fucking go, man. Let him go.
I don't know anything mechanical because I've never had to know. I never know if you say, "Oh, what's the best burst rotation to get the fastest Dragoon out," but also to incorporate like a Feta when to incorporate this. I would like, I don't fucking know. Ask someone else.
When to
I
stop.
play healer. I'll give you the worst one. See, when you're against me, I win.
Yeah. All right. So let's go into this next question here. K1. So Joe, what are the advantages and disadvantages with fighting in a 1v1 versus a monk and Dragoon? So basically, what are we looking at? Plus minuses, monk versus Dragoon.
Okay. I actually had this the other day, which was awesome. Damn, I'm pissed that I don't remember the name of the monk. The monk came into my stream when it was happening, and monk was on me. We're battling back and forth, and we talked about it earlier in the broadcast today. Featherfoot.
Yeah.
Featherfoot, knowing when to pop Featherfoot, knowing when to pop your recuperate, knowing when to pop your there's another ability they have that increases their evasion, the specific PvP ability, right? Or am I blowing that? I might just have no clue. Oh, it's enhanced feather ward. That's what it is.
Okay.
If you pop your feather ward at the exact right time, you make me completely useless. Like completely useless. I'll miss my Vorpal Thrust. I can miss my Disembowel if you really want to pop it at the right time. I can miss my jump. I can miss my Dragonfire. Like popping that at the right time, and also knowing when to immobilize me or whatever.
Pacify.
When to pacify me. You can really fuck a Dragoon up. However, if you use those incorrectly, I'm gonna fuck your face up, dude. Like you're done. Like you're absolutely wrecked. If I put a slow on you and I can stun lock you during my maximum burst, wrecked, bro. I've got 2 moves that can crit for 3k, and if I'm popping it at the right time, I'm doing 15k damage to you in 2 GCDs. So like between my Dragonfire, my jump, my buffed full thrust, and my Vorpal Thrust. So my full thrust and my 4th combo. So with all of that happening, if you allow me to do that to you, I'm gonna kill you. But if you can avoid that, and and my Gear Skoggle. So that's if I get a slow on you and stun lock you for that 2 GCDs, which is my leg sweep and my spine shatter dive, and I've got 5 seconds to hit you, and you can't guard that. You don't have your feather ward, whatever it is, you're fucked. But outside of that, you can probably wreck me. It's a fun matchup. Like it is a really fun matchup between monk and Dragoon. I don't have as much experience going up against a monk, so I'll fight anybody 1v1. I love 1v1s. I'll call people out. Like when people see me on stream, I'll be like, yo, just fight me on the side. Like I'll fight tanks, I'll fight whoever it is. Like that's a fun thing for me. You know, like I'm losing enough in bronze anyway. It doesn't fucking matter at this point. And I'll do it on my main, because my main, I'm not really on my main character on Balmung. I don't really care about my ranking, but on my alt on Gilgamesh, I care more about that. So,
Okay. K1 also said you need a rematch with him.
Yeah, I've wrecked a lot of people who wanted to 1v1 me. So I look forward to handing out healthy doses of humility to all of you. Let's go, baby.
All right, we're gonna stop for questions for just. Oh, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Yeah, like a quick thing to add on there is the pacify from monk ignores fetter ward, so even if the Dragoon has it up, it will go through that, and it will stop everything. If they're halfway through the combo, if they're not at the end, it will stop their burst dead.
Okay.
Yeah, it really pisses me off to get pacified, and it really pisses me off to miss my moves, especially when I'm buffed. So it's a really great matchup. Like it is a really good matchup, because if I can hit you and you pop them when you're scared, like if I pop an internal release and you immediately go, I shouldn't even be talking about this, but if I pop one of my buffs and you pop any of yours in reaction to it, and I save my blood for blood, and I save my everything else, and I like jump you basically. If you use it at the wrong time, I'm gonna make you pay for it, and especially if it's 1v1. If I don't have to worry about another range DPS, if I don't have to worry about a healer like at all, if you remove those from the equation, it's gonna make you hurt. But other than that, you're gonna fuck with me. So.
Okay. All right, let's talk about a little bit about the live letter changes. There's a handful of things in there about Feast. They're going to make adjustments for Adrenaline, lower the number of walls in the middle of the arena, and burst damage for Machinist will be reduced.
Ah, yes.
Are those all changes that you guys agree with?
We agreed with the Machinist. It depends how they do it.
Yeah.
We agreed with the small potency by getting rid of that upgrade for Between the Eyes. So
Was it
overall,
540 to 450?
yeah, so basically getting rid of that extra upgrade, which upped it. That's what we agreed on. Removing the walls, I don't know why. I don't know why Square Enix does what they do anymore. I want to see the reasoning behind that one.
Okay.
That's an even bigger buff to casters once again.
Yeah.
Because now you can't line of sight. Well, I guess it's a buff to all of the range because of Gas Barrel and the Bard, the Bow Gas Barrel.
And healing at the same time. Healing as well.
Yeah.
All right, and so they're also going to reduce the time matches to under 8 minutes.
Yeah.
I want to see the reasoning why.
It doesn't really matter. Like it's a very small change to basically what happens is if you've got two teams that are equally skilled, it puts more pressure on the teams to do things at once. So it avoids things like the running away and the like avoiding damage and just the jumping around. You know what I mean? Like it's nice when you want the queue time. Like over the course of a day, if you talk about having nothing but 8-minute matches compared to 10-minute matches, it's a 20% increase in the amount of matches you can have in a day, which obviously is more enticing for me. You know what I mean? As a player who wants to play as much as possible, especially during peak hours, like you will have 20% more matches, which is nice. You won't have to wait in queue as long, which I think is probably the main reasoning behind it outside of like the actual strategy involved. I think that's probably more along the lines of what they were thinking with that.
Okay.
I think it makes the matches less tactical, but I guess I'm biased in the way that when we have good matches, we have very long, you fight for every single medal, and when you come out, it's always swung one way, and then after the next fight, swung the other way. And then there's been a lot of fights where we win or lose by like 3, maybe 1 medal from a kill at the end, or a not kill at the end, and that I think reducing the time is going to reduce that. But like Joe's reasoning's pretty solid. I can't disagree with that. More matches is better.
Okay. The other adjustments they're making is to matchmaking. They didn't really say. I think they just said there are going to be adjustments to matchmaking. So hopefully that kind of goes in line with what you guys were talking about too, with the segregation between bronze and diamond, right? And giving us some sort of middle ground there.
I still just really want to know what they're thinking. The more information that we have as a PvP community, the better we can work with it. You know what I mean? Like our community is so strong and tight knit at the level that it is. Like that's why you see things like Friday Night Fights, where we as a community catalyzed around the content itself and we work around it. Like for example, we may not queue together as teams of 4 when we know our top team is fucking queuing. You know what I mean? Like we're not going to go up against or try to fuck with our main team if we're also going for matches, So, and at the same way, like they're going to eat me up anyway. So I don't want to fucking feed. But like, if we know more along the lines of how it works on their end, we can make adjustments as a community around it. So even if it means like setting up a cross duty, like some type of alert system that says like, hey, I as a melee DPS will be queuing from X amount of time to X amount of time. That leaves like everybody else who wants a strong melee DPS to be able to queue along the same lines. Like whatever it is, like the more information, the better, I think. And it's being able to get feedback from the community and also to the community is very, very important, especially if you're talking about the long-term growth and the survival of what this community is. So, I want to be able to get excited and talk to as many people as possible who are playing other versions of PvP or other games to get them interested in PvP, to get them skilled in PvP, to get them competitive in PvP, and to be able to use that as a selling point for the game itself. You know what I mean? Like there's too much content in this game to not to be able to sell somebody on for the PvP to be lacking and have them be like, nah, I don't want to play. You know what I mean? Like to know at this point, yeah, there we go. to know at this point in the game that Square Enix has started to focus on the development side on PvP, it's a very attractive thing for me to know that their feedback loop is so fucking small. Like within the first week, they made adjustments to PvP. Since when has that ever happened ever in the past? You know, that's a huge thing to know from a community side and as a PvP community that they're interested in this fucking version. Like they're very interested in making this awesome for the community itself. You know, to know that they're interested in taking our feedback and getting involved at that type of a level, to know that the Japanese community is being affected by the stuff that we've done, you know, as a PvP community, that's a powerful thing, dude. You know what I mean? We've gone as a community. I've gone from a PvP. It's so funny. I've gone from a player, and now I've gone from a player to a very passionate like spokesperson, somewhat fucking like mascot of PvP in the Final Fantasy Twitch community, to being able to say like the connections that we've made as a group are going to change PvP. They are going to be implemented into the game, and they are going to change based off of the effort that we've put in. And that doesn't go to the select few people that are in this PvP conference. This goes to every single person that makes a post on Reddit, that makes a post on the forums, that makes a post anywhere, like says some crazy shit on Twitter. That's how serious the dev team is looking at PvP feedback. They're watching it like fucking hawks. Every single day, dude. Like every single fucking day, they're looking for input from the community, and they're using that as feedback and information to change the game for the better. So it's a really fucking beautiful thing, dude.
All right, man. That's true words, man. I'm glad to hear it. And let's also talk about this real quick, just to mention it. The actual season that matters, will begin 2 weeks after 3.25 comes out. And, you know, 3.25 is going to bring a lot of major changes to it. Do you think that, well, I guess it would depend on the major changes that are coming out. Do you think we're getting towards that spot where we're okay to start making, hey, this is a serious season of PvP, and the winners of this season are going to be posted up here? Are we at the point to where it's okay for the feast to start doing stuff like that?
I think we're at the point anyway. They just need to add. It was very strange that they're saying we're going to make this esports almost centric. To see the best PvPers in the game, we're going to have rewards and stuff. Oh, by the way, teams, which is obviously the most competitive, you're not getting anything. And then everyone's just like, I threw the biggest shit fit ever, had a roid rage. Joe had to tell me off because I was salty.
Bro, day one, Steve was boxed up at work while we were all killing it. You know what I mean? Like he was coming in different streams and watching, and I can't even imagine what type of day it was at work. And Steve's blowing up on Twitter, tagging me in these tweets like, yo, who's Joe's contact? I need to talk to him right now. Like tagging me with like community members. And I was like, bro, what the fuck, man? Like chill the shit out.
I was so pissed.
Because that's one of the things that I made arguments for when I started talking to Square Enix was like usually what happens is Square Enix comes out with a piece of content and we react like, I'm just keeping it real. Like we react like little fucking spoiled brats, and it's like, yo, this isn't the way it should be. Fuck this, blah blah blah, and we get banned from forums, and that's the end of communication at that point. Yeah. But if we go about it maturely and as adults and say this is what we've identified as an issue in this game. As an issue in this game, we believe this, and this, and this. X items, A, B, C, and D would be possible solutions for that. We've discussed it with X amount of people, and we're all in agreement that this would be a huge positive outcome to the current problem. We are basically troubleshooting and becoming like testers for a system at this point. They've already talked about in the PvE aspects of the game that the testing, they do the testing on a very surface level way. Like they're all invincible when they did A3 and they were like, yeah, the pacing's great, blah, 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 blah. We've got eye level 2X, whatever, like it'll be fine. And it went out into a community in a very rough way, and the community was hurt by it. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to the amount of time and effort they put into PvE, it's a lot less when it comes to PvP. So to be in a position where there's literally no one in this game with more North American time and experience than the PvP conference and the Rum Raisin fan club and the affiliates of the Rum Raisin fan club, like it is an incredibly valuable amount. It's incredible information. It's incredibly valuable information. So obviously, you know, the community team is interested in working with that. You know, it's huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that all being said, do you guys think the Final Fantasy 14 has a chance of going into esports with things like the Feast?
It'll be niche, but so is World of Warcraft PvP. I think has a good shot.
I seriously believe that this is the reason why I believe this. When people come into my stream and they watch me PvP and they see it for the first time, they'll usually say, I have no idea what's going on, but it looks like a bunch of fun. And it looks like it's fucking awesome to see people get excited about it. You know, for the focus of it to be on a very competitive level, the version of PvP that we have, if it were implemented on like private servers that had less lag and were like really, 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 really fast, I think that the PvP in this game would be absolutely fucking nuts. And you know, for me to be as passionate as I am about the PvE and about this game in general, I want to be able to compete with other people. You know, I want to see the things like, I want to see there to be competitions. Like I just want to, if it's not me competing in it, I'd love to announce it. I'd love to be involved in it, whatever way it is. You know what I mean? Like I want to see the best players in the world be rewarded for the effort that they've put into this fucking game. You know what I mean? I want to see King T-Pan. I want to see King Stefan. I want to see King Steve. I want to see Steve. I called you Steve, dude. I want to see these guys get the accolades and the prestige and the attention that they deserve for being as passionate as they are about this fucking game. Because as of right now, there's zero focus on it. You know, and that sucks because these guys are fucking gods in the PvP world. Like, if you mention their names, if you drop a Next Cross, if you drop a Jammy, if you drop a T-Pan, if you drop a Blubbers, if you drop any of these guys, if you drop a Stragus, you know, if you drop their fucking names, you know who they are if you're in that community. But outside of that community, people are like, whoa.
No, exactly. I have to agree with you because I haven't dove too deep into PvP right now. And this is the most I've dealt with PvP, I think, since this came out because I've been busy with a billion things. But when you say those names, I'm like,
exactly.
I don't know. But, I mean, like, from how you guys treat them, that's amazing to know that these people are out there and they exist. They just don't have the attention that people... you know, and that's also to say almost the same thing with some of the world first raiders. They didn't have a lot of names and attention, and they're recently getting a lot more attention, and that could be just because I'm more familiar with it now. But I mean, once PvP starts to rise up some more, I imagine that these names are going to be more familiar.
All I know is, like, for again the same thing I started talking about today. Like, we're in year 3 of this beautiful fucking game. If you're scaling it based off of Final Fantasy 11, we've got another 9 fucking years. If like that's at a minimum, another 9 years to play this fucking game and to adjust things and to keep going. So to know that the game itself, to know to know that that's an inside joke. To know that they're interested in it and to know that they're thinking about it is exciting for me. So, you know, I want to see stuff like that. I do want to see, I want to see them thinking about it, you know?
All right, I'm going to ask a couple more questions. And actually, I'm going to mesh some questions together here.
Cool.
Because we're not going to be able to hit all of them. But there's a lot of questions out there about how to improve in a certain job, how to get better. Lucid Shards definitely was asking how to be a better summoner in PvP. Like, where's a good place to look that stuff up? And Steve, I'm assuming you have a place for that, right?
Generally, it's on streams. There's a load of videos on pvpreborn.com. We have a list of all the streamers that we do and if they're online or not. Generally, if you want to get better, first of all, you just need to practice. There's no point. You need to walk before you can run, basically. You need to practice and get destroyed before you understand. And then it gives context to when someone says, maybe you should go Vitality as Summoner or Black Mage, and you're like, why would I go that? I'd get more damage. And then you go into some matches and you get one shot by a Machinist, and you're like, that's why. And just things like that.
Are there any guides, or is there any like information just like listed somewhere that someone could just like go read?
If you want there's a good Black Mage guide by Vesperia Wall. She was posted on Reddit not long ago, and it's on the forum somewhere if you search. I can't use search because I'm banned, which is really annoying. Also, if you want to learn Bard, if Nico's is streaming or if Vega's streaming and you ask them, they'll probably help you out. T-Pan generally streams whenever he's PvPing, and he'll give you pointers for ninja, for
Anything.
summoner,
Everything.
for scholar, for any healer, for black mage as well, and for warrior, because the T-Pan burst was pretty ridiculous. Like T as Marauder could one-shot you within that 3-second stun that they had. They required no setup at all from anyone else, and he would just delete you.
Okay.
But yeah, ask around, search the forums. Take what you see on the forums with a little grain of salt, because the most vocal people on there generally aren't the
most knowledgeable.
The most knowledgeable, to be safe.
So let's do this. You guys, after the show, shoot it through me on Twitter and Skype, wherever. Just give me a list of all these people that stream PvP, just so I can attach it to the video here. And anyone watching this right now, and they want to know where all these streamers that do a lot of PvP are at, and the people that are respected in the PvP community, you can go watch their stuff. You can follow everything, follow all these guys, and that way you can actually go out there and maybe learn from them a good bit. I think that would be the best way to handle it, because I don't think there's a big central spot where, hey, here's a guide for every single job and class, and this is how you do well in PvP.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of it is self-learning, though, at the start.
The way I think about it is it is like Fight Club. You know, it's like Fight Club in the way that, like, I would love for everyone in the world to have the knowledge that I have about Dragoon, even though it's not like the tippy top. But at the same time, like, the more knowledge that I give out is also more competition in PvP. So you
can't complain about having good competition, Joe.
Oh no, obviously, you know, there's only a handful of Dragoons that I'm scared of, like, and that's honest. Like, there's like probably less than a handful, like less than 5 people in the world that I'm worried.
Oh, you said 100 earlier.
Oh, that's
107.
PvE.
Oh,
PvE.
okay, I got you.
PvE.
Okay.
Come on,
I got you.
But there's the way that I always talk about it is, like, I want to make more guides. Like, I want to do more PvP stuff. I might do like an introduction to PvP video where it's like, these are the things you don't want to do as a class. Like, this is the things you want to do as a ranged, a tank, whatever it is, just to give people a general idea, but like very low key. But I always keep it when it's live. Like, if you ask somebody a question, especially when they're broadcasting, if they're broadcasting PvP, like, if you go into their channel and you show interest in their passion, they're going to respond to you in the best possible way. Like, if you come into my channel and you ask me a question about Dragoon PvP, I'm going to roll out the red carpet for you, dude. Like, that's my fucking forte. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that shit. So, you know, I'm always there for anybody who's interested.
I got one last question. Go ahead.
I think Joe agreed a while ago, or I agreed for him, that he was going to do a freestyle rap tutorial for Dragoon. If I didn't, I have now.
Oh, we were talking about this, dude. I was like, bro, you got to broadcast. Like, your amount of knowledge is insane. Like, you got to broadcast. He's like, dude, I can't broadcast, number one, because I can't dance and freestyle rap and play Dragoon at the same time. I'm like,
you need to do it. Just make a YouTube video, man, and post it up there. You don't have to be like playing at the same time. Just freestyle rap.
You know what? I might.
I'm British. I can't rap. If I rap, I get arrested. I think that's how it works here.
That's a really funny concept. I might write a rap about an introduction to PvP.
That's not freestyle.
I know, but like, think about it. Like, imagine something you could memorize as a rap about an intro to PvP. Oh my god, like that. Ooh.
Okay.
Creative wheels spinning, boys.
One last question here. I'm going to ask this for both of you guys. KCOS88 wanted to know, how many Finir puppies have you gotten so far? Steve?
12.
12. Joe, you got 4?
I haven't played nearly as much. I was in South by Southwest for like a week, so I wish I had more time to play. Like, it pisses me off. I don't play as much as a lot of the other guys, but I've gotten 4 so far myself.
I got you. All right. I think it's time that we need to start wrapping up the show, because I have some things I have to actually go do before a certain time. This was a little bit longer show. We're almost at 3 hours now. We're almost at 3 hours. That's pretty good. It's not our record 5 hours and 15 minutes, Joe.
Yeah. Is that still the current record, bro?
I think that's still the current record. 5
Marathon men, boys.
Still one of the longest ones out there. I definitely want to give you guys both shout-outs for coming on the show. You guys are absolutely amazing for coming on and talking about this. And I think that it would be a good idea to get more exposure out there for PvP on a more regular basis, too. So thank you, Joe. Do you have any shout-outs you want to do, Joe, before we head out?
Just again, like, I there are guys in this community that like somewhat have to remain out of the spotlight, and they need the recognition that they deserve for the people that they are, for the knowledge that they have. Incredible shout outs to my dog T-Pan Beast on Twitch. Huge shout outs to my dogs Nikoza and Pochi for the effort that they put into the online resources of PvPReborn.com and FFXIV PvP. Shout outs to all my dogs that PvP with me. Shout outs to my dogs Halik, Kitsuyu Hime, Stragus, Stefan. You guys know who you are. Tridolo, Steve, you know what it is. Everybody. Shout out to my dog Crimson on Gilgamesh. Everybody that's been involved in this community. Shout outs to my dude by Bipolar Wolf, if you're watching, dude. Everybody that has any type of passion, that's interested about PvP, that wants to be involved, like anybody who loves it in any way, shape, or form. Shout outs to you guys, because without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do stuff like this. But there are a lot of people that deserve attention, and if I'm missing anybody, like please forgive me. Everybody in the Rum Racing fan club, everybody on Famfrit PvP, and everybody on Balmung PvP, and and that's shout outs to the Final Fantasy 14 NA community team that's interested in gathering information from anybody involved, from everybody involved. For you guys that are interested in making this game, making PvP great again. It's a really fun time to be involved in PvP and to be playing it. So, that's really all I got.
And one more thing, Joe. I want to just take this chance while we're on air, we're at the end of the show, to say I'm sorry I didn't get you on the 50th episode, Joe.
Dude.
I know, it's salt in the wound.
It's all good, bro. It is what it is, man. Like, I love the show, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I've been excited about being on it since the first episode. And, I was there. I was commenting in chat. I was laughing up with everybody else. But it's all good. I support you and everything that you do over here, man. So it's cool to see your growth and how everybody's been excited about it, and to be able to talk about PvP through this channel in a different way. You know what I mean? I love you, dog.
Man, yeah. My boy.
Hell yeah, dude.
Steve, thank you for coming on the show for the first time, man. It's been awesome having you on here. Although, maybe next time we'll get you in like a separate room or something, and then we'll neglect all the coffin, all the PoE tip lane. Yeah.
Put him in a bubble.
Put you in a complete bubble.
I'll just walk in next door's house I need to borrow your house for a second. Just like a few hours.
Yeah.
Man, but yeah, thank you for coming on the show. It's been awesome. You have a ton of knowledge about PvE, and I'm glad I got you, or PvP. Sorry.
Yeah.
PvP.
He's an incredible wealth of knowledge, man. It's really impressive. It really is impressive.
So it's definitely
ask me
been a
about
blast.
anything theorycraft. Just don't ask me about like having a good mindset, not raging, and anything mechanical.
Oh my god! You and Holic have the same. It's tough because there's like a very hardcore niche community that's like, a second new stuff comes out, they're like, man, it's not perfect, and then there's like me who's just like, fuck yeah, PvP. You know what I mean? So I love the. It was a really cool chance to talk about PvP in this way today. So I love it.
Yeah.
Dude.
Steve, do you have any shout outs you want to do to anybody?
Shout outs to Run Raven fan club, my team. We got Team Alpha, we got Team Bravo, Charlie, we got Team Justice. They're opposite team, Team Evil, and Team Batman, the one that
Batman, baby.
Team Batman, the one that fields Dark Knight because he doesn't level Paladin. General Esdeath, I'm calling you out. I think he's actually leveling Paladin right now. Let's have a look. Let's have a quick
Shout
look.
outs to my girl Ice-T. Shout outs to Bahamut. Shout outs to
Joe's like taking over your shout outs, man. He's just
my
like,
bad, dude. My bad.
It's just revenge from last time. But yeah. General, shout out to anyone on Aether and Primal and Japan and even Chaos, even though all of you people just shit talk endlessly when I'm talking to you guys. they just don't, all they do is shit talk, and then like they do some solo queue and then they shit talk again. It's pretty good. To the point where like everyone hates them. Is amazing. Shout out to Pochi for making xivapvp.com. The stats tracking is really good. Lets you have a load of stuff and a load of people use it to be bad manner to other people, which is its main intention. Shout out to Frosty for hosting this, and to, I guess, to Square Enix. Like, your balancing ways are pretty awful right now, but you're getting there. And I'll make sure that you
gotta
get
learn, man. You gotta get out there. You guys get reactions from real players too. I think that's really important. And that hopefully we'll have enough reactions by the time the first season hits that it won't be a complete cluster and it will work out okay. But all right. So I also want to make sure that everyone watching this knows I appreciate you for watching. It's been awesome. Everyone who followed the show, thank you for coming and following us. We're here every single week. We try to be here every single week, unless there's an emergency or some kind of work situation that I can't control. But all the time, and the time zones are all screwed the hell up, man. But it's at 2 p.m. at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, and right now it's 2100 GMT, but I think it's gonna be 2200 GMT as soon as they do their daylight savings time.
I know it's midnight now.
It's midnight now, but I mean when the show starts.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, and definitely, I got to make sure I do a really huge shout out to Carrara in the chat, who collected all the questions.
Great job.
Helped manage that crazy, ridiculous bot raid that we had against Vaping, and she did an amazing job. And everyone who kind of stepped in to help a little bit, yeah, exactly, Joe. You're gonna get it right before we leave.
Vape boys.
Dude, we get it. Vape, damn.
Yeah, and so. Thank you so much. She's done an amazing amount of work today with the show, and I do not take that for granted at all. The other people, of course, would be the person who did the artwork, Blizzana, the person who did the intro song, Tari. Thank you very much for that song. It's been great using it ever since we started. Next week, the plan is to have our discussion on the World First Clear group and kind of bring them in and kind of discuss everything they went through during the World First Clear, which would be Layla and Miyuni. I haven't completely confirmed those down yet, but we're working on it, guys. And once I know for sure, I'll announce it on Twitter. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, that's where I post my updates to MogTalk when there are updates for it. And you can follow that at Frosty TV Stream. There you go. Simple enough. So before we head out, I do want to host somebody, but of course, I always want the guests to tell me who I'm going to host. So if you guys could point me in a direction that you believe somebody should be hosted. I mean, PvP related would probably be the biggest preference.
Yeah,
right
hell
now.
yeah. Give me a second.
I think the boss should decide.
I don't like deciding. I like people coming on. Then there's a variety, right? It's not always me deciding who's doing it. The boss. Wait a minute. You're calling me the boss? Who are you calling the boss?
No, the bots.
Oh, the bots. The bots should decide.
Yeah, get the bots to decide. The bots come back in here. There was what? There was 480 of them last I checked.
Who's not vaping? Let's check it out. Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous. That's the first time that's ever happened, but of course.
Perez is broadcasting.
Perez, Xeno's warrior, right?
Yeah, Gangster Replay.
All right.
My fucking dog, dude. That's
dude. That's 8S. You guys cool with 8S?
Let me see if there's any PvPers real quick before we go there.
Is Happy PvPing right now?
Who?
Happy, Mr. Happy. He PvPs.
Oh, my bad. I didn't hear what you said. My bad.
I don't know.
Is he PvPing right now?
He's online. Let me check.
Looks like he's in South Thanalin.
Yeah, he's not
just, like, talking
PvP.
to viewers right now.
Yeah.
Nah, host Perez, dude.
Okay, we're gonna send a host. Perez was on the show here not too long ago, like 5 episodes ago.
And I love my boy. He needs as much attention as possible, bro. He's really, really skilled, and he does not get enough attention.
Jesus. All right, hold on. Shout out, Gangsta Replay. I totally messed that up last time.
Real quick before we go any further,
man.
yo. In case you guys were noticing the fantastic attire that I have on my chest, there are 4 days left in one of the last Do You Even PvP Bro shirt campaigns that I'm going to be doing for the stream. I went full-time broadcast last month, and it is one of the biggest ways to support what I'm doing online, which is awesome. I'm a full-time Final Fantasy XIV and somewhat variety broadcaster. These shirts not only support the broadcast, but they also help increase PvP awareness wherever you go. Plus 2 comfort, plus 2 defense, plus 20 swag. If you're interested in grabbing one, you can go to teespring.com/twitch/doyouevenpvpbro. We've got to sell 40 more of them in the next 4 days. So anybody who's interested in grabbing a shirt, please go out and grab one ASAP. There's a bunch of different colors. They're comfortable as fuck. You got the Twitch logo on the side. Got a little Swagoon in the O. They're super sweet. Super sweet. I said queet. That's not a fucking word.
Yeah, that's all right. Steve, do you have a shirt?
I don't have a shirt. I actually might buy one.
Fuck?
I don't buy. I need to. I'm moving house soon. I need to save as much money as well. And I'm going to. Me and Joe will be in FanFest in Vegas.
Yep,
correct.
I'll be there too.
We'll be around, so hit us
guys,
up there.
you gotta show up like at least a couple days early, so we can go out and drink and stuff while we're not doing that stuff.
Yeah, I actually have.
I can get off work, so.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I'm going to be doing for FanFest that are going to involve at least 72 real people. So I need some type of support for people that are getting out there. a little bit sooner than later. I'd like to do it probably before FanFest happens, but there's going to be a huge community at FanFest this year. So big shout outs to anybody who's planning on going out. I can't wait to meet people for the first time and fucking hug them in real life and shake everybody's hand and say what's up and party like fucking rock stars, dude. I'm excited.
Yeah. All right, cool. And I'll have my coffee mugs at some point in MogTalk coffee mugs, right? We'll do that.
Hell yeah.
All right. Anyways, guys, thank you all for showing up today. We'll be back next week, same time. Please have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully it was a good Friday, and then you'll have a nice Easter egg tomorrow if you're into that
Happy
kind of
Easter,
stuff.
everybody.
Yeah.
Happy Easter, everybody.
I ate mine on Thursday.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's do our awkward waving, guys. Awkward waving. Real quick. Bye,
Baby
guys.
wave.
Bye.
Baby wave.
Bye. Oh, the baby wave? Is that the baby wave?
It's
Oh,
No, it's the
back.
queen
Big
wave.
way.
Oh,
This
okay.
is the queen wave. It's got to be straight hand.